Hello, friends. We have a solar eclipse in Libra that promises to change not you just on the inside, but everything on the outside. All that and more with Namaste Today live. Hello and welcome to Namaste Today Live. I'm so happy to be live here on the air with you. I'm Christopher Oteki, the Sensei to Serious Joy, here to help you stand in your power and at this point help you to navigate the new era. We are live today on all of our platforms, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, X.com, and Instagram. And if you're in the super chat, do us a favor and give us a super hello. Tell us where you're coming from and tell us your sign. We'd like to know what your astrological sign is. Let's say hi to some people. Hello, Evil D. It doesn't sound like it sounds. Hello, Rachie. That's cool. Hello, Haley. Nice to see you. Iggy, wouldn't be a Friday night without you, brother. Suki Suze, I recommend you. And we'll also go to Iggy was there. Evil D. It's not moving. Hello, Justine. Scott, nice to see you again. Tina Smith, hello. Karen, also a pleasure. Antoinette, that's a cool name. Gracie Wagner, hi. No such thing as a quick fix. Hi. And Sydney Aaron, so nice to see you again this week. It's been nice. Well, friends, things have been a little kooky. You might have noticed that we were a little late today on the air. We apologize for that. I think it's part of the symptom of an eclipse that's coming up next Wednesday. This eclipse, I think, promises to turn life upside down in the sense that we will find ourselves, in some cases, having minor breakdowns. In fact, I would say expect a minor breakdown in your life and in the life of everyone you know between now and Wednesday or shortly thereafter. I'll be talking about that in today's show. Also tonight, we're very happy to have for Astro Mingle, an embodiment teacher and an energy healer and a practitioner. Her name is Janelle Marra, and she is here to talk about her practice and the idea of energy healing. But before we do that, we're going to do the Zodiac weather. And because of certain circumstances, we're going to do this Zodiac weather live right now on the air. So let's transition and do that. How's that for a transition? Bingo, bango. So I'm going to do this more casually now, not try to be the sing-song that I am. We'll come back with this version later. But over the weekend, as you can see here, we're going to be on step 5 and step 6 this weekend. And so energetically, what we're doing is we are opening up, our mind is opening up and accepting step 6. What are we accepting? We're accepting a new mirage. So this is a weekend where you're going to find yourself perhaps more to yourself, more of a recluse, more spending more time just with yourself. Because the topic is yourself. The topic is how you relate to yourself. So on Saturday, we're predicting sunny and forgiving. This will be the day where we ultimately open up and accept ourselves and what we are. And then on Sunday, we're predicting it's going to be sunny and meh, which basically means as you begin to open up and come into this new version of yourself, you might be a little meh because the sun's going to conjoin the south node on this day. And on this day, you're going to be letting go of old parts of yourself. So you could say that the whole weekend is that you are reconciling what you have been to yourself this whole time, and you are opening up to a new version of yourself. The meh really comes from the fact that we're letting go of that old self and that we are realizing that a new inner mirage has to be born. Now, looking ahead at the 5-day weekday forecast, over the week, things get a little intense. In fact, you could basically say that everything builds up to Wednesday and a climax. That Wednesday is when we have the lunar eclipse happening, the solar eclipse happening with the new moon. So a new moon solar eclipse on Wednesday is the apex. And so it goes up to that and down back a little bit. We do have the step numbers off a little bit here. That's my fault probably. But on Monday, it's sunny and organized is what we're doing. Looks like we have sunny and meh there again. Sunny and organized. And this is going to be where we decide basically on Monday. Very serious day. The moon's in Virgo. You're feeling sort of meh as it begins and then more organized as the day goes. You know those days where you wake up and you're like, I got a ton of things to do and you feel like the world's overwhelming. And then by the end of the day, you get some things done and you feel like you're on top of the world. That's really what I think it is. What you're receiving basically on Monday is your authority. You're receiving your ability to make decisions and change your life. So you may start the day feeling like you're out of control. And by the end of the day, you feel like you're in control. The good news is that on this day, Mercury will conjoin the sun. And that means that you're going to come together with your mind and your heart and decide what the solution is for you on the inside. On Tuesday, it's sunny and soft. On this day, we go from step 8 to step 9. 9 is not usually a soft day, but once you begin to move forward with your decisions, you're going to be realizing that you now have a plan, a plan to change your inner life, a plan to change the way you manifest inside yourself. And so, with this plan, you'll be able to release the old plan and embrace the new. The moon will be in Virgo in the first part of the day. That's part of the meh because you're just realizing all the things that need to change. But as the day progresses, the moon moves into Libra, and that allows you to really start to accept yourself for this new version of you. And by the way, that moon in Libra is now the countdown to the new moon. Then we have, of course, on Wednesday, this is the apex day. Wednesday is cloudy and still, in fact, eerie still. Solar eclipses are eerie still, all right? The ruling step number is actually going to be 10 of the solar eclipse. And that solar eclipse is to manifest a new mirage. So you could say that you're getting mirrored on Wednesday. And in that mirage, you are going to be loving and trusting that everything will be okay. So there might be some, indecision or apprehension. With the moon in Libra, of course, you might go back and forth about things. What you're doing really is stepping into a new integrity. And that new integrity is with yourself. Now, by the way, that solar eclipse apexes at 2:49 p.m. Eastern time. And that will be a moment where you might feel the earth goes still. They say the earth goes still during eclipse. If you're watching a solar eclipse, you see the earth goes still. And it's funny, you do feel birds, animals, everything quiet down. And suddenly things just feel very quiet, right? That quiet, in my opinion, is sort of the downware of the software or the thoughtware, I think, from heaven and above. After the eclipse on Thursday, we move into sunny and harmonious. I think we feel very strong. We go from step 10 to step 11 that day. The harmony probably happens once we hit step 11. So the day may start a little strange and then move on to something better. And also on this day, you're really going to find that you receive an inner alignment. So if you feel out of alignment, by the end, you'll feel in alignment. And self-realization is going to be self-evident. This Thursday is probably when most of us comprehend the profound changes that are happening inside of us. So up until Thursday, even the day after the eclipse, expect yourself to be sort of in the unknown of what's changing inside of you. It's kind of like a metamorphosis of a caterpillar to a butterfly. There is a period where you are just goo. And then on Friday, it's going to be sunny and rather reserved. This is where we go from step 11 to step 12 on Friday. And what you're doing is you're receiving an exponential realization of what can happen. So when you come to this new mirage with yourself, you realize anything is possible if you can come in alignment with yourself. And suddenly a fresh perspective of life is born for you. You realize, wow, life may not be what I thought it was. Venus trining Saturn comes to a new opinion about life. And I feel like for those people who maybe gravitate towards the negative or pessimistic, this is actually an opportunity where you will shift to the positive. And the moon is in Scorpio for this realization. So what you realize will be sort of sealed and delivered by the Scorpio energy. You're going to draw a boundary around it and you're going to realize this is the new reality. All right, that's all we have for the Zodiac weather manual style.
It's serious joy, joy, joy.
All right. Now, today we want to say, if you are watching on YouTube, please be kind and do subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Serious Joy TV. Hit the bell button so you're notified. If you don't mind, please like this video so other people who enjoy astrology will be alerted by the YouTube algorithm. This week, Serious Joy is sponsored by, this week, Namaste Today Live is sponsored by Serious Joy TV. In fact, we want to point out that we have now a portion of Serious Joy open to the public. It is the daily download with Heather Exposito, live 7 days a week. I'm getting lots of feedback on this, and people are saying it's the perfect little kiss that they need in the morning to help them understand and navigate their day. Of course, if you're a subscriber, you get so much more in Serious Joy, the Daily Pep Talk, which stars either myself or Robbie Hunt, our weekend anchor. And that's where we do a deep dive every day. We do Psychic 101 testing, and we also focus on the larger transits and larger themes. You can start Serious Joy right now for free by just showing up and reading the front page. We're here to be helpful for you. And if you'd like to go a little bit deeper, it's just $3.99 for the first 30 days. You can opt out anytime. I personally made sure that we make sure we end that subscription by the end of the month. So it's worth a try. It's only $4 and it helps us help you. All right, friends, without further ado, let's go on to our planets and transits. Well, it is eclipse season. And before we dive into eclipse season, I want to give a couple of notes about what's happening here at Namaste Today Live. We are sort of under construction, if you will. And Serious Joy, our brand, is a little bit under construction. We're transforming some of the things we do. And one of the things we have decided to do is that we're going to be moving the day and time of Namaste Today Live. We're also going to rename it, actually. We haven't figured out exactly what that name is. In fact, if you want to be helpful, what would you name Namaste Today Live? I'd love to know. We might get the name from you. Just put it in the comments, though, not in the chat, because it's more difficult for us to comb through chat to find answers. So if you have an idea of a name you thought would be appropriate, we'd love to hear about it. It'd be cool to kind of do a little market research this way. But we are saying that we don't necessarily know the time just yet or the date of the day of the week that we're going to use. But one thing we do know, we're going to reduce the total time in this show starting tonight. So starting tonight, you'll start to see that the show itself becomes a little bit less lengthy. And that just comes from trimming out certain aspects that we're going to move really to the subscriber level of Serious Joy. Realize some stuff we're giving out here, we should just probably pack away for our subscribers who want to do the deep dive on seriousjoy.com. And here on this show, be a bit more abbreviated. So if you're wondering where the time go, we've shaved some of the things. Also, our pardon us for being a little tardy today on the air. We've had a bunch of things coming together, and we are just also caught in the winds of the eclipse. And that, my friend, is the topic of our planets and transits. The eclipse. Let me just take a drink of my whiskey. I just said coffee, I said. I'm just kidding. So I think the big highlight of this week is going to be this eclipse, which apex is on Wednesday at 2:49 p.m. Eastern time. And you could say that everything of this next 10 days is really eclipse energy. Now, of course, a solar eclipse is when the moon and the sun come together and the moon blocks the sun. Happens every day, right? No. And what happens is it creates a super sun. The sun is our heart. The moon is our emotions. So a lot of the management, if you will, of an eclipse is actually your emotions. Your heart is the intention. So your heart says, I have the intention of this, this, or that. The moon says, and my feelings say ... Now, if you have a lot of, let's say, turbulence leading up to the eclipse, it's probably because either the sun part of you, your heart, or the emotional part of you, the moon, one of these parts of you is not truly in alignment with yourself. Or another way to say it is, your heart is aiming for the incorrect direction. So your heart is choosing something that is not possible right now. Your heart is choosing something that is bigger than is possible at the moment, which you can still do, but sometimes things feel off. Your heart is maybe choosing out of loving someone else. That's our biggest issue we find at Serious Joy, that a lot of our clients are, wishing for someone else and not wishing for themselves. That's not how God works. You can't send birthday presents through heaven. You can basically just pray to give them to their soul account, but free will must be honored. So if you start to have a lot of bumpiness between now and Wednesday, if something falls out between now and Wednesday, it's probably because your heart is not in alignment. Your heart is wishing for two things. It's wishing for something not for you. It's skipping steps. It's wanting something here before you can have something there. And so the giddy up jump is to put your heart on the right path. Examples of turbulence can be people quitting, people getting fired, relationships ending, you finding out that you're in trouble with some sort of monitoring agency, that sort of thing. Something that comes as a shock and a change to life. And so you'll find that, people you work with suddenly go, people fly off the handle about certain things. And what that is that person's heart has sabotaged the situation, unknowing that it's because they were heading down the wrong path for what they really didn't need, or wasn't what was not on the agenda up in heaven, so to speak. So there's a lot of self-sabotage leading up to a solar eclipse because the heart was not aligned with the plan that was, formed in heaven, as we call it. We need another word for heaven, but I haven't found one yet. Now, the other option of things breaking down is emotional. So as we talked about in the beginning here, the moon is our feelings, and the moon will go, into Libra, then Scorpio. The moon will be in Virgo, like I said, for the first few days leading up, for 2.5 days leading up to Libra. And when the moon's in Virgo, the moon, our emotions are going to be kind of pressed to be cleaned and come into alignment, right? Someone said they had to quit today. No notice. Huh. There you go. Oh, had a lady quit today. Thank you for the affirmations, y'all. So it's happening, right? So the moon in Virgo is going to be sort of that scrubbing agent for our feelings as to whether or not our feelings are in alignment with our destined path. Our feelings are, in alignment with what our heart wants. Because, Virgo is 11, love myself and love myself some more. So are our feelings in that place, right? And so that means that emotionally from Sunday night to basically Tuesday night, really until the eclipse, till Wednesday, you could have an emotional blowout in your life. And that's because your perspective of emotion is not in alignment with what the eclipse needs to be, the solar eclipse. So, emotions fall apart, whatever. And what you're facing with are the feelings that don't belong in the equation. Because when the sun and moon combine, they get married, okay, to create this new super event that sort of reprints your heart and your moon and reprints the matrix, the reality around you, to be in alignment. That's how I think the construction of it works. The point is eclipses, in my experience, are really sort of little correction points. I used to think we had free will in eclipses. I don't think we do. I feel that we gave up our free will wherever heaven is. We sort of said, hey, at these points, which are marked by eclipses, I want to make sure the story is heading this way and that way. So there's sort of checkpoints, like gate checkpoints, to see that you're on the path that you were meant to be according to what you planned as your spiritual flight schedule before you incarnated. So an eclipse is already encoded to sort of make sure human beings are on their way. So, between two eclipses, you can like wander way off your path. But as you get close to the eclipse, things start happening to get you back onto that data point that you had agreed to, or I should say learning point that you had agreed to. Now, I'm already noticing a blowout. Serious Joy has had their own. I've had my own. We're having it before the show. You know what I mean? Like, it has consequences. My whole staff is affected because of me. So I'm seeing already happening. I hope that's all it's coming. But I can guarantee you it's definitely happening. And what it's doing also is the blowouts are revealing all the things that aren't working that need to change. So I recommend that, when it comes, you just say, oh, here's my blowout the sensei told me about. What do I need to change in my life? What is this teaching me that will help me be on a better path for me? And, the topic, which we're just now getting to, is your mirage. All right. So that's the eclipse and how the fallout happens. It's your mirage. In fact, this week we are devoting ourselves to new relations. All right. New relations with ourselves, new relations with the world. So what's happening in this eclipse is God Universe is saying the way you relate to yourself and the way you relate to the world is officially outdated. It's outdated in the sense of it was built for the last era, these relationships, and the way we relate, it was built for the last era, and that's not going to work anymore in the new era. The new era is a stairway to heaven or a stairway to hell, choosing which way you want to go. The old era was an opportunity to heal. So what we're working on with this eclipse is ultimately your mirage ceremony. Is your mirage ceremony. In other words, you're going to get mirrored to yourself on Wednesday in that eclipse, and not just mirrored with like a pinky ring kind of thing, mirrored from an eclipse, a solar eclipse that energetically at step 10 is you love and you protect, or you love and honor, recognize those vows, you love and honor yourself. And so you're promising on Wednesday to love and honor yourself. So to go back to what I've been talking about thus far, if your heart has a breakdown between now and the end of the eclipse, you were not loving yourself. There was somewhere you were not loving yourself. And even I had to go and discover in my blowout that happened this week where I wasn't loving myself to begin with. And that was the problem. And so I was law of attracting situations that did not love me also. If you have an emotional blowout, okay, between now and the eclipse season, the eclipse week, you have been not honoring yourself. Because to honor oneself is to listen to their feelings and respond to what they are saying to themselves, right? And what your feelings are reporting back. Your emotions are your rear view mirror of your life and your reality. So it's time to love, honor. And if you want to throw on cherish for extra bonus points, do it. You are essentially bringing yourself to love, honor, and cherish your relationship to self. And we talk about the planets here in a moment. We'll talk about how that is playing out by a state of awareness because it's playing out in lots of different ways. So basically, you are going to be getting remarried. And then from that new mirage, okay, which is on Wednesday, from Wednesday to Friday, when this particular show continues to air, you will then be looking at your relations to the outer world. And so basically by Saturday, which is one day after our next show, I'm just giving you the scope. By Saturday, we hit step 13. That's when you'll see a wave of outer world relationships hitting the fan, all right, and starting to break down. Now, you may say, they're already breaking down. I've had all sorts of turbulence with my relationships. The turbulence prior to the eclipse and really prior to Saturday, which is October 5th, relationships prior to October 5th, if they cause a problem, like your boss yells at you or someone walks off or, someone has, there's an upset moment, that was actually a lesson to teach you you're not treating yourself appropriately. And so you're attracting people who will treat you the same way or a variation of that theme. So any relationships that break down between now and next week are really a lesson about you. And maybe there's a problem with them, but it'll be next week that you face the problem with them. This week you face, who have I been to myself? What sort of a monster have I been to myself to attract or deserve this treatment? All right. So it's inner first, it's mirage first. It's how you relate to yourself. And I'll give you some clues on this, but I think you know it if you've watched me for a long time. It's basically listening to the heart. The heart knows exactly how to relate to you. And sometimes people have told me, I've been doing this exercise this last week with my Diamond Egg Club and my members to that. And we're kind of going through these exercises of how to look and identify our heart. And many times when I looked at these exercises in real time with real life stories to kind of use, the client was simply not really listening to their heart, because what their heart asked for, their mind said was impossible, can't afford it, that's selfish, it's too far. Who am I to ask for something like that? What I found in most of the cases is that the heart wanted something and the mind said no. So in other words, if you put that into astrology, that is like saying the sun saying, hey, Mercury, I need you to move. And Mercury going, no, you move, right? When Mercury is orbiting around the sun. That's how ridiculous it is with Mercury orbiting around the sun. For Mercury to tell the sun what to do is the same as your mind to tell your heart what to do. That's the architecture of incarnation, and you aren't living by it. So I don't know a person on earth who can be happy living in their mind and letting their mind run the show, because they're not aware of just how much their mind has been influenced and programmed by TV and influenced by family and influenced by situations. Even if you set out to do everything opposite of what your parents taught you, you still based everything you did on what your parents taught you. And no one is really raised to look at themselves as a blank slate. They're always a reflection of. My point is, if you want to keep it really simple, your heart knows exactly what those mirage vows are. And that is first and foremost to live according to the heart, that the heart shall be the ruler. The heart shall rule all things between yourself and yourself. And if you put it through that filter, there's no going wrong. Even if you go out of your way and end up buying too much for yourself or giving yourself too many gifts, it's easy. You can actually take those home. It's not a big problem, but to not listen to the heart is absolutely a big problem. So let's look at the planets really quick and see kind of the planets and how they back up this story. I'm hoping we can, because we're having some, tech difficulties and other difficulties. Starting with really the sun in Libra. We have it. Oh, amazing. The sun starts in Virgo. So the sun Virgo is not applicable. Let's go to the sun in Libra, please, because we moved out. That was last week's slide by accident. If we have it. Okay, I'll just move on. There we go. Yay. Thank you so much. So we got a lot going on. So the sun in Libra this week goes from step 6 to step 13. All right. Step 6 is happening in the next 24 hours. And so in the next 24 hours, your heart is going to cross that south node. See, the south node is step 6 all week. This is really interesting. We want to talk about how cool the planets are and how cool it is, how aligned they are. The south node, of course, has been in Libra all year long. It started at 29. It's gone all the way down to 6. I don't think it started the year in 29, but that's where it starts. 6 is your mirage. 6 is the mirage, okay? Always. 6 is always the mirage. So in the week that the sun actually gets remarried, basically the same week with that eclipse, the sun crosses the south node at 6? Are you shifting me? Like the timing is brilliant. It's one of the things that makes me realize. And by the way, that's the proof of the step system right there, because we're talking about step numbers, right? So it happens with the step number. The point is that you are going to basically get divorced with your old mirage over the weekend. That's really what's happening. You're getting divorced. You're letting it go. And getting divorced, by the way, means that there are no terms and conditions. There's no alimony. There's no going back to it. This is a cold break. You'll never see each other again. This version of your inner self. Again, I'm talking about your inner self, the part that nobody sees. Yeah. Okay. So Spirit's telling me something interesting here. So, a lot of people I know are really nice on the outside. And as soon as they're alone, they're totally mean to themselves on the inside. I can't tell you how many people I know are like that. And so, you know who you are. If you're not treating your inner world as good or better, good or gooder than the people you treat in the outer world, you get an F, okay? Because the inner part of you is the God part of you. So, excuse me. It's best to go ahead and let that old version of yourself go. Don't expect it to happen overnight, because it won't. It's about making that mirage vow that it'll happen, all right? Then as we move forward into the eclipse, that's when you will, love and protect at step 10, love and protect this new mirage vow with yourself, and this new, this new approach to how you will always treat yourself going forward. As we start the week, Black Moon Lilith is at step 10. And she actually progresses to 11 by there. I didn't get that on the graphic in time, but she's still conjoining this eclipse. So, what's interesting about this is when this eclipse happens, the sun and moon will be right here at step 10. She moves up. I think she moves up one step. I got to look and see. But let's just look real quick. I'm actually moved to my rescue cam here on the 9th. Just make sure on the 2nd. Just to see where she's at, to be sure. No, she's at 10. Dear Lord. See, I'm not showing the charts anymore. Yeah, so the fascinating thing about this is this eclipse includes all these planets. Mercury will be at 11, so your mind will be holding space for your integrity. Your Black Moon Lilith will be actually also just slightly ahead of this, well, actually around on the sun. So what this means is this eclipse eradicates and erases the trauma and the drama of your karma that you have with yourself. So this blasts and releases your karma with yourself. So all those lifetimes of letting yourself down, you're healed. Everything is okay. And the south node is south of the eclipse, which means that it is a yesterday thing. This old version of yourself is a yesterday thing. So this is a huge cleanup in aisle 6 is what's happening here. And that happens again on Wednesday. That's the apex. So between now and Wednesday, you may face any issues that have to go. You may face any trauma with yourself you haven't thought about. You may face any thought patterns that are not on the side of your heart and on the side of your higher self. That's the Libra energy. Let's take a look at the Aries energy opposing. Opposing is Aries. Now, Chiron has zipped down to 21 degrees. Of course, the north node in Aries is at 6 degrees. And so where we go from the eclipse is this way, to a nice, calm, peaceful relationship to yourself, a grandmaster relationship to yourself that you plan to act on, Aries. And Chiron at 21 now says that a new story about your future is born. Now, Chiron at 21 pretty much means like when people say, I always thought, Billy ended up in jail, but he turned his life around. Well, there you go. Turn his life around is Chiron at 21. We turn that story around. We put it in a different direction. So I just want to say to people out there, if you feel there's no hope for you, or no hope for someone, no, the planets say you have an emergency exit right here at this eclipse where they could turn their life around. I never give up on someone ever. I do give up on them this lifetime. I will say, okay, that's it. That's all you get this lifetime. But ultimately, I know the course of humans. I know that everyone ends up in heaven. It's inevitable. It's just a matter of how much you can make yourself pay to get there. Then moving to the moons, if we have them. We do. Awesome. Good job, Nina. We start really with Leo on Saturday into Sunday. So tomorrow, as we go into Leo, your heart is being inspired by your dream. So your heart is saying, but my heart wants to just appreciate myself. My heart just wants to be happy with my body. My heart just wants to be happy with myself. I don't want to feel bad about myself. I want to love myself and love myself some more. That boost of Leo is calling for you not to feel sad about what you don't have, but to declare what you have is not enough, and to step up with the love of your heart, the self-love of your heart, to say, that's it, I'm going to change on the inside. Gosh golly. And then the moon goes into Virgo Saturday night. And so the moon's like, okay, you want to change this. And so the moon in Virgo just starts kind of picking on you. But really what it's doing is making an inventory of all the things that must change inside of yourself for that to happen. And so we take inventory from Saturday, Sunday, and part of Monday, and then we move on to and then into Tuesday, we move into Libra, okay? Actually, late Monday is when it happens. I'm reading my own stuff here. So Monday, we move into Libra, and that will be the countdown to the solar eclipse. As the moon moves into Libra, now you weigh all your options, okay? So the moon in Virgo was saying all these things are inappropriate. And the moon in Libra is like, well, I can handle this, but not that now. We can do this, but not this now. And so the moon just starts going back and forth. By the way, relationships start going haywire, probably with the moon in Virgo, because now everyone's very aware. We're very aware that things have to change. And I just want to point this out. Many people who just don't study this stuff and haven't done spiritual path work will blame other people. You were like this to me, and you treated me this way, and I will not be talked to like that. I will not blah, blah, blah. And so they're going to see things with that moon in Virgo as everyone else's fault. That's really not what our power is. So you're one step removed, 2 steps removed for your power. But then eventually it comes down to them making changes about, well, I won't work with them, or I won't do this with them, or I won't be there. I won't do that anymore. And so they don't address the problem, which is how they treat themselves on the inside, but they probably will remove themselves from the infected part of the life. So the moon moves into Libra. It apexes Wednesday, and that apex is the solar eclipse. Step 10, boom, you are healed. The universe says, congratulations, you are remarried. You say your vows, and then as we move into the rest of Libra going to Scorpio, you're basically processing, well, if I'm going to treat myself right, I'm not going to deal with this friendship or this thing or here. So you start to mark the things for deletion or change in your outer life. And then by the time we get to Friday, the moon moves into Scorpio and the sun goes into 13 degrees in the next 24 hours. And so at that point, you are ready to leave what's not working, leave all the relationships that are not working. So the week starts with emotionally feeling less than. It moves to the feeling equality with ourselves. And then we start seeing things not serving us in the outer world as less than. That's the arc of the change. Now, moving to Gemini, just for a point. Jupiter's at Gemini at 21 degrees. And that is the Grand Master degree of Gemini. And so this is where Jupiter will station retrograde and will basically show us, craft the belief about the future. So with this mirage change, you craft let's say, theory about the future. I have this theory about the future that this is possible and that's possible. And that theory will be the commandment of Jupiter's retrograde. So you'll then spend the entire Jupiter retrograde working through all of your beliefs to see if they're in concert with this theory you come up with. And then later in 2025, when Jupiter goes direct again, you then will build the final script of your belief in your mind. Basically, Jupiter in Gemini is building your thoughtware operating system, how your mind operates. But what coordinates the operation is Jupiter, the belief. So Jupiter 21 says, we are writing the script of our next version of ourselves and how we think. And so the formula here is for your feelings to listen to your heart, 2 to the 1, in order to find your truth. All right. Then moving on to Capricorn. Pluto and Capricorn, the only thing I want to point out, and I'll talk about this in the Tea Time horoscopes, but Pluto and Capricorn says all these changes end up changing your power in the world. And that's what I experienced. What I experienced was my mistake caused ruckus, which then threatened my authority. All right. And so you'll find that authority is threatened when you go down the wrong path. If you go down the right path, you might threaten someone else's authority because their authority was based on you behaving the way you have been behaving. So ultimately, expect major changes of power. Your power level in the family, your power level at work, your power level in your church group, your power level in your club, your power level in your bowling team. Okay, whatever. That level is shifting and changing dynamically all week long based on how you are addressing your problems with yourself. Let me say that again. No matter what conflict happens this week, I told you we don't change relationships till next week. But those very relationships are the inspiration to change yourself this week. So don't get confused. It's not about them this week. It's about you. Next week, it's about them. So whatever happens this week, you have failed to be there for you in some sort of symbolic resemblance of the situation. And so power changes not because you change or do something with someone else. Power changes because you change the way you manage yourself. But with Pluto 29, power does change. And I'm seeing an influx everywhere in my life. Let me tell you, it's fascinating. And then we have, of course, Cancer creating problems. And that's because of Mars and a visitor that comes, it's the visitor that comes once a year. Actually once every 2 years, once every 1.5 years, Mars shows up. So it's kind of like having that great cranky uncle that shows up to yell at everybody in class. Well, Mars goes from 13 to 17. Now, notice it starts at 13. Okay. That means we are all volatile for the next couple of days. I'm talking Saturday and Sunday. Everybody's cranky. Everyone doesn't want to tolerate so-and-so. Everyone doesn't tolerate what so-and-so said or what so-and-so did. Everyone is throwing up a little explosive moment. And again, it will happen with relationships in the outer world. This tells you right here, 13 to 17. This is why outer world relationships are pissing you off this week. Mars is instigating emotions in outer world relationships 100%. All right. But again, if this happens this week, it's not about them. Don't be fooled. It's about the way you treated yourself to attract them in the first place. You attracted them in the first place because of the way you treated yourself. Sure, you can yell at them and you can correct them and try to correct their stuff, but you're still facing what you attracted from you. So watch out. Any sort of fire up of emotion and anger is a clue that you're about to get a lesson about how you're supposed to change your mirage. Venus, our peacekeeper, is way up in Scorpio. So let's go to Scorpio, please. Venus goes from peace to peace. Are you kidding me? This 6 to 15 net 6. That's this week. So, the beginning and ending of however you, parentheses it is ultimately the scope. That means that she's on the side of peace. And what she's doing on the side of peace is creating boundaries, Scorpio. So you're crafting new boundaries, and creating boundaries for yourself that ultimately will maintain peace in the outer world because you're changing your inner world. So think about this. You're recrafting your inner mirage, but Venus is setting up for boundaries that will need to be placed later when the sun goes into Scorpio. She's just sort of like setting down orange construction. Construction crews put on orange spray paint lines and say they're going to dig a hole here. She's basically marking territory that's going to change in the future, probably based on your friends and the people around you misbehaving right now. You're not going to necessarily address them this right now, but you are going to set up some police tape about what's not going to be allowable in the future. And then we go, of course, into Pisces. In the Pisces consciousness, Saturn is at a steady 14, so that means we're changing our opinion about karma. Neptune's at a steady 28, which means we are manifesting that new karmic ceiling. And if we go to Taurus, our final sign we're talking about, Uranus this week, go to Taurus, please. If we can go to Taurus. Thanks, they're moving fast. It's unusual. They're just not, control room's like, we can take a break. He's talking about Taurus. And what? Uranus at 26 all week says, we are committing this week. We are committing to what our values are in the future. And that commitment is a negotiation that goes up and down. And that means, this isn't really happening, but you're sort of setting the benchmark of how you want to end up, building the company, how you want to build the family, how you want to build the dream. You're sort of negotiating with yourself how things are going to be built. And that, of course, is all based on your mirage. All right, friends. Well, that is enough for the planets and transits. You got a good idea of how things are going, but you may not have a good idea about what's going on with you. Go steep yourself some tea, and let's have our tea time. Hello, friends. Welcome to the tea time portion of this segment. I'm super excited to be transformation going on when it comes to our lives and our mirage. I got to say, it's a long time running, and I'm excited for it. In today's tea time, if you don't know, these are our weekly horoscopes for all 12 signs. And we take these horoscopes and cut them out and re-release them on Tuesdays right now. Of course, with the new Namaste today and the new Namaste today live date, we're going to change when that happens. But what's important is we release for you the horoscope just by itself so you can quickly and easily go back to that message and get some guidance just for your 12 signs. And, out of all the astrologers out there, very few of us are doing horoscopes for all 12 signs. So tell all your friends, okay? We're one of the few. Not many people will go to the extent that we do here at Namaste Today Live to give you these things. Just pat myself on the back there. Now, that said, this week I want to keep it simple, and I'm going to be simplifying this show a bit more as we go, because we're sort of moving the complex behind the what we call the firewall at SeriousJoy.com. So for those who are investing in their joy, but this week, excuse me, my throat is being changed as always. This week I want to talk about the obvious. The obvious is, okay, what part of my life am I getting mirrored? Where am I having to write a new mirage with myself? And I'm going to talk about where that is and how you're going to have fallout with the next chapter of that, whatever that chapter is. So talking about where are you getting mirrored and what part of your life is sort of on call or on hold, in the sense that it may be that things start to fall apart or relationships start to fall apart in that area of your life. So we'll talk about that first. Then I'll talk about the Earth and Aries, something I haven't talked about in the whole show just so far. And that is the Earth and Aries at the very moment of the eclipse. So the eclipse is the sun and moon. It's a huge area, right? On one side. On the other side of it is the Earth. And the Earth has a huge impact. What is that impact? The impact is the gravity pulls us up. So we're called to rise up. And I don't know any astrologer that talks about what I'm talking about here, which is that the Earth side of the equation is heavily affected by an eclipse. Now, we know that geographically, or geographically. No, we know that with geology, sorry, all the G's. With geology, we know that. We know an eclipse like this could trigger extreme weather. It could, there's right now hurricanes in Florida have gone through. It could, earthquakes, volcanoes, all these types of things. Because I believe the eclipse does this major pull on the Earth. Like, the Earth gets sort of stretched in that direction. And so something gets pulled out of you, all right? So for all the 12 signs, I'll talk about what's getting pulled out of you. Now, whatever's getting pulled out of you is a call to action, all right? So a call to action is getting pulled on the other side of the equation, a call to action in Aries. So I'll talk about where is your call to action as a result of the solar eclipse. Then I'm going to talk about Pluto. Where's the area of your life that's going to end up having to have a change of power as a result of all the people in that spectrum of your life? So let's say that this all plays out for your career. That means everywhere in your career, there's going to be this dance for a change of power. Maybe someone, drops out of the organization, leaving new windows for people to replace, changes happening. So you see this trickle down change happen from the power change. People say, well, not everyone's going to get promoted with Pluto 29. No, but if your boss gets promoted, that creates a vacancy, or at least creates another boss that you have to work with that has different power. So it only takes a few in an organization to change everybody. A few people to get fired and hired to change everything, because it's just the dynamics of bouncing off of each other. So I'll tell you in all 12 signs, hey, this is where all that bouncing is going to go around, all that change is going to go around. It's going to start happening in this part of your life. And then lastly, I'm going to tell you a Chiron placement. And the Chiron placement going to 21 now means what part of your life is going to craft a new story about the future. So maybe you had, the future is you die of a disease. Now this future is you're healed and you go on to help other people avoid the disease. All right. So in essence, I've chosen this week's horoscope. So we're calling now soul horoscopes. Your soul horoscope is going to be about the eclipse, what has to rise on Earth, what call to action must happen, how your power will change and where your power will change, and where your story will change. All right. And as always, let's start with Aries. Aries, you are a purebred. You're always pure with the Zodiac. And we base the Zodiac in Western astrology on you. In Vedic astrology, they're based on Pisces. All right, just so you know. Now, that said, as the leaders of the Western astrologer age, you with the Sun in Libra are literally changing your mirage. You are going to have a new mirage. And a lot of Aries have poor mirages as far as I'm concerned. They're very rough on themselves. They don't often use compassion with themselves. And so they sort of bruise their way through it. So this will be a new mirage with yourself, period. A new way of relating to yourself like you've never done before. This is a new relationship to bring the best out of you and to help you heal from whatever scars you have made with yourself, okay? So that eclipse is, you breaking down with yourself all through till Wednesday or a little bit shortly after. Now, what that does is with the Earth on the other side, on the other side of that vacancy, creating a huge, pull towards the eclipse, that means that you're going to have a call to action when it comes to the way you treat yourself. And that call to action may be that you have something happen in your life that you realize, I really need to be nicer to myself, or I really need to give myself more time, or I need to be maybe more patient with myself when it comes to these things. So there's a call to action for Aries to treat yourself differently. Pluto at 29 says you're going to have a change of power with your career, legacy, and parenting. Somewhere in your leadership, somewhere in your leadership in the world, what you do, whether you're a boss or you're a foreman or something, that has to change. It's going to change once you change your mirage to yourself and your call to action. And then Chiron in your sign says the fate of your character changes. You might have been fated to end up, broken alone, and now you're fated to end up married and happy. Your fate actually changes. Your story actually changes. And honestly, I've never met a perfect Aries yet. So every Aries' story ought to be changing. All right, moving on. We're going to do a little spucks here. That's a cold drink if you're wondering. I am live in the hot summer called September of Palm Springs, California. Taurus, you are creating an inner version change of yourself. Your mirage of how you live in the moment. And I can tell you that I've always lived in the moment behind. I'm behind on this and I'm behind on that. I'm always like in this, like, hurry up, I'm behind. That's been my life since I was born, okay? I was born late because I felt behind. And there's reasons for that I won't go into right here, but I'm just sharing my personal life as a learning tool. So there's some way of living inside yourself that is not appropriate. The new mirage is you have to live inside yourself a different way. And by the way, this eclipse Taurus, step 10 is your number. So I predict Tauruses and Libras will be the ones who benefit most from this eclipse, most, because it's our step number and it's Libra sign. And that means that Tauruses will see the greatest arc of change, and Libras will too, out of all the other signs. So this is going to really, if you had a hard life, you're having a hard time coping or bringing things that you want in your life, this is a significant investment in a transformation, all right? So it's time to create a daily moment, or I call an ommment. You need a daily ommment where you are feeling at peace or in om with yourself, and then includes your body and how you treat your body, by the way. So if you've been not treating your body well, you're okay. You have time to change now, no matter what's happened. You have time to reverse course with this eclipse. The Earth in Aries will be a call to action when it comes to faith. I've already had the call of action. I can tell you it sucks. No, the call to action was a reminder of who I am. I mean, for me, when I had my eclipse event, which I feel was my eclipse event, it was several events of things going wrong. I had to remind myself of my place in the world. I had to remind myself of my fate. I had to remind myself of my deal with God. I had to remind myself a lot of things that I'd come down to do because my reality was sucking, basically. And so I had to be reminded of my faith. So a call to action to your faith, to recognize and restore any faith now. Pluto at 29 means that you will have a shift of power in your life purpose. Now, this is complicated, but I can tell you with me, the shift of power in my life purpose was I was allowing other people to start encroaching on my life purpose. Some people have told me what I'm here to do. And I'm like, really? You're going to tell me what I'm here to do? But there was things like that. But there's also been little things where my purpose was threatened, where what I've come here to do, people are starting to threaten to, change the course of that when I know what it is. So I definitely saw that threat of a change of leadership of who's leading the purpose of my life. Am I drafting the purpose of my life, or I'm letting other people tell me what my purpose is? That was my challenge, just to share. And then Chiron for you, Taurus, is a new story about faith. So the new story about faith is once you accept that call to action to live in the faith, this will be some sort of benchmark moment where you maybe never turn your back again. You never look over your shoulder again. You realize, yes, I've got faith. It's a new story. I have God's approval. I have God's support. And there's an affirmation that the universe is with you. That's Taurus. Moving on. Gemini, you are creating a new mirage when it comes to self-love. However you love yourself, it's not enough, period. Don't argue with me, Gemini. Don't. Geminis will start talking. No, actually, there's a no-brainer here. Every Gemini I've met has this. I have met a tremendous amount of Geminis in the last 2 weeks. I cannot tell you how many Geminis, because I always ask anyone I'm with ever, what's your sign? which goes to conversation of what do you do? But I had a ton of Gemini show up, and every one of them was not aware that they suck at loving themselves. So it was quite an interesting little debate I had. And my son's a Gemini too, so I see it in a person's life very intimately. Your deal with yourself is you have to love yourself. Your mirage with yourself is that you will love yourself. If you don't love yourself, Gemini, you will not see reflections of love in the world. You will not see people. If you don't tell yourself you love yourself, no one will tell you that they love you. If you don't act on loving yourself, no one will do loving acts for you. You see how it works? You're a Gemini. You're a Xerox copy of yourself. You know how this works. Reality is basically a Gemini. Human beings live a Gemini life. They see this version, this twin version of themselves is actually life. So it's time to get mirrored around your self-love and bring your self-love into this new context that you've never had before. This will require a call to action in society. Something in the world will challenge you to actually do love yourself. So you'll be challenged in the world. Well, don't say do. And that's, by the way, saying it is enough. Thinking it is enough. Writing it in your diary is not enough. You must do. Gemini, you must get off the couch and do something for yourself. And like I said, something in your social life may threaten to go away or fall apart, and that call to action will be in society. Pluto 29 means that you have to take back your power when it comes to changing your life. An example of this is a criminal, right? If a criminal doesn't change their life and they get caught, well, now the system is going to force you to change. You're in a similar situation except with the earth. I'm not calling you a criminal. I'm saying if you don't change, something will force you to change or leave. That's the way it is. Pluto's no BS. It has to change. So if you're looking at something you know that you shouldn't be doing according to your own life and your life's plans, Pluto 29 says there will be a major power shift, especially if you don't get mirrored to your heart on that day, and you might be challenged on something even like jail. Maybe that for someone out there who's listening. Jail keeps coming up for you guys. So one of you guys or two of you guys, be careful about that. You're in the, you're in trouble. You're on the verge. And Chiron in the 11th house says that a new story will be born as to who you are in the world. So by the end of all this, with Chiron 21, you used to say you were, this in the world, and now you'll be that. So from this to that for Geminis in the world population. I know that we're doing an ugly cup tonight, but I have no choice. Cancers, you are having a new mirage to your emotions. The way you have governed your emotions have been, frankly, inadequate. And you may say, oh, nothing gets to me. Well, that's a problem too, okay? The fact that nothing gets to you, nothing makes you feel. Are you a robot, right? Or are you overly emotional? How you manage your feelings has been the old way. Let's put it that way. We want high definition, high resolution emotion. We want to be able to feel ourselves and feel the bug on the wall across the hall. That's what we want as far as our emotional awareness. And for that to happen, you have to have neutrality. Your emotions have to be cared for. They have to be nurtured. Who am I talking to? You. You have to nurture other people's feelings. So Cancers get no hall pass, no excuses. You know exactly what it takes to nurture your emotions, and you either doing it or you're not doing it. You're either a faithful lover to yourself or you're an unfaithful lover. That's it. Okay. So the eclipse is sort of a wake-up call to nurture yourself. Now, this is a call to action that may do this will be career. So your boss may say, hey, I need you to stay up all night and do this. And then tomorrow I'll drive halfway to this. And after 20 hours of no sleep, can we go to a gym class together? So something in your career will be the call to action for you to nurture your feelings. And it will be the test as to whether or not you do or don't. Now, moving on to Pluto, this means that your power structure in long-term relationships is in major flux. If you don't mirror yourself emotionally and avoid that call to action or to do the wrong thing in the call to action, you may find that forever you alter a relationship you have with someone. In other words, you may disappoint your boss so much that suddenly you are regarded as inferior. I'm not saying you stay with that boss, but suddenly you're inferior to that boss. You might have been equal, now you're inferior because somehow they were a witness to how poorly you treat yourself. So, there's be careful about how well you nurture your feelings if you want everything to work out in relationships. And then, of course, we have in the 10th house, Chiron. When you do everything I just prescribed and described, you will find that your career has a new story. That where your career was heading at the beginning of the week will probably not be where your career is heading at the end of the week. So a career narrative change. All right, moving on to the next one. Leo, you are having a change of mirage to the way you talk to yourself on the inside. So The way you think about yourself, the way you talk to yourself, the words you use, the titles you use, this is going to change. You have to now upgrade the way you talk to yourself. All right. So an upgrade to talking to yourself. This talking to yourself has to be positive, loving, love, honor, and cherish. Every word in your mind and your thoughts of your mind must love, honor, and cherish. Now, I have a Leo rising. So when my eclipse event went down this week, I found myself first being really harsh and critical to myself. And I caught myself in it because I knew it was part of the test. And so I had to reluctantly, because there's some sort of satisfaction in putting myself down. I don't know what that is. We'll go on that in therapy. But the point is, you might find yourself being cruel to yourself when the event happens. So you want to turn that shift around and not allow that language to go dark or to go too far. Now, when that happens, you'll be a call to action as far as your life purpose. Something will threaten your life purpose. And you'll realize, if I don't get this language inside myself, I could lose my investment in this particular purpose, which I also saw in mine because I have a Leo rising. So, be cautious of the call to action for life purpose. And what I mean by call to action is you're going to have to prove to the universe you want it. That's a call to action. Prove it. You want it? Prove it. Stand up, be counted, prove it. So Leos have to prove their purpose and what their direction is. Now, looking at Pluto at 29, Pluto at 29 says there will be a test of power when it comes to your daily life. So your daily life will be threatened as far as you remaining in power. That could be something where, like if you were head of court, like people who, like, let's say to go to court, maybe they had drugs that were caught on them or something. They've been escaping through drugs. The judge can go a couple of ways. Usually there's a lot of leniency. The judge can decide, you're putting a collar on your ankle and you're being monitored, or the judge could say, you're going to go work in the potato farm for 6 weeks and put in some work. Like the consequence, you suddenly have an ankle bracelet, boom, you've lost your power. Or suddenly the company says you've lost your spending budget. We don't want you spending for us. So you could find that your power in daily life is suspended if in fact you think poorly of yourself and fail to step up for your life's purpose. And then Leo, as we move to the end of this, we have, of course, Chiron. And Chiron means that you ultimately are going to have a new story with your life purpose. It goes to the next chapter one way or another. If you are, of course, if you answer that call to action, you'll find that your purpose goes up to a new level of the story. If you avoid your call of action or fail it, you might find that your purpose now shifts, or at least nothing else. You are stuck in the old purpose and you ain't getting out for a while. All right. Moving on to the next. Virgo. Virgo, you are getting married to your values. Okay. It's time to value yourself on a whole nother level. It's time to get married to loving yourself, honoring and cherishing your self-worth. You are as valuable as you say you are. That's one of the myths that Virgos think, that your value is established in the outer world. It's not established in the outer world. Your value is established in your inner world. It's called soul capital. It's called self-worth. So your self-worth is going to be what this eclipse is about. Are you giving yourself a new self-worth credit rating? By the way, step 10, which is this number of the eclipse, is also the number of the second house where this happens. So you also are greatly affected by this eclipse more than other people. If you've not been giving yourself credit, there'll be a collapse. If you have been giving yourself credit, there'll be a boom. Okay, that's what it kind of comes down to. Now, this will create a call of action when it comes to your boundaries. You might have to enforce a boundary or make a boundary or draw a boundary with someone as a result of the fact that you as a result of the fact that you suddenly say, hey, I'm worth this much. Someone will say, oh, you are? Prove it. And that will be a boundary. Maybe the boundary is like, I don't have to prove it, would be the boundary. So there will be this call to action around enforcing a boundary or drawing a boundary with others as a result of you raising soul capital in the eclipse. Now, that said, that means it will all lead to a test of power when it comes to personal dreams. Your ability to manage your personal dreams will be tested, is what happens. And so that means someone will threaten to take away your dream, or someone will try to take over your dream, or you can imagine, I'm sure, many more scenarios than I can that go wrong. So if anyone can, anyone on the planet can, calculate what could go wrong, I don't need to lay it out for Virgo. You get it, right? But something could go wrong when it comes to your loving heart intentions and desires. And then also looking at Chiron, this means that as a result of all this, Virgo, you're going to now have a new story about how your life is changing. Either how it's changing or what it will change goes through a change. So a change in how things will change. Interesting. Then the birthday Libras. Birthday Libras, you are going to have the most change out of every sign. This is happening in your sign. This is the result of the nodes, the south node in your sign. So the south node has been breaking you down for almost 18 months, like total. 18 months of breakdown. Why? Because you were overbuilt. Overbuilt where? In your power, in your action, in your behavior. Your behavior has been inappropriate according to the universe as to where we're going. Not where we were. Maybe you mastered where we were, where we're going on Earth. And because we're going on Earth, the Libras are not ready to be the diplomats of the new Earth because they're not good diplomats to themselves. So this eclipse is a karate chop to the old way of how you've treated yourself, you know? And you might say, well, everyone's treated me poorly. No, you've allowed everyone to treat you poorly. Your inner self has allowed that and attracted that. It's not really about the way they've treated you. You've drawn in that type of personality versus a different type of personality. That's how it actually works in the matrix. So this is a new mirage to yourself that sort of says, I'm going to honor, love, and cherish myself in every response I have to myself and every action I do for myself. It's going to love, honor, and cherish those parts of myself. The call to action will be, of course, from a relationship. Some relationship may test you on that new declaration and say, oh yeah, well, I think you're supposed to work for me or be there for me. So the Libra constellation, the Aries constellation is saying you're going to be tested from a relationship that you have about how well you treat yourself or not. Then we move on, of course, to Pluto and Capricorn, which means you will have a major challenge or a test of power with your feelings, your home, or your foundation. So something in your home and family will be what sort of tests your power. And then lastly, it means if you do all this correctly according to your heart, you will see a change in your relationships in the sense that you will see that your Chiron story of where relationships are going to go actually goes through actually, it's not relationships, excuse me. Your changes in life will have a change of story is what it comes down to. Relationships, excuse me. Now I'm going all over the map. Basically, your relationships will change because your ego changes, right? So the call to action is the same as that. So I just realized, like, oh, they're the same. So there'll be a call to action from relationships. And if you pass the call to action in relationships, in other words, you don't let the relationship get in the way of this new way of treating yourself, then you will move on to the new story of long-term relationships. Whew. It sounds like potato chips, relationships. That's when my mind's going crazy. All right, let's move on to the next one. I'm chugging a sugary Starbucks because of this day. Scorpio, you are having a weird one because you're called to, your new mirage deals with inner faith. So you're being called to have greater faith with yourself. Greater faith with yourself means fearlessness. So most of faith is the absence of fear. As soon as you remove the fear, humans are naturally faithful. We know we come from God. We know that God helps us with everything. We know that on a subconscious level if we don't know it on a conscious level. So most of the work of the 12th house in the first decan is the removal of fear. Get rid of that fear, get rid of that fear, face that fear so it can't pollute the rest of your faith. Okay, that's first and foremost. Yeah, I know, potato chips. So I just listened to Flame. So it's a new marriage when it comes to faith. You're getting married to your faith and you're divorcing your fear. It's a great way to look at it. This will create a call to action in your day-to-day life. So something in life is going to test whether or not you are married to faith and have divorced fear. Probably Lilith calling up and giving some shift, right? Then, of course, Pluto at 29 says your attitude, your way of thinking will have a power shift. So you change the power structure of how you think or communicate. Maybe you don't have to be the one that says the last word, for instance. That would be an example of an evolution of the way you think you communicate and think. And then lastly, for you, you're going to find that if you pass that call to action about lifestyle, that your lifestyle will now turn another corner. And by the end, you'll be sort of on the sunset road to heaven in daily life. So a lifestyle change, a new story about your life. Maybe your life isn't as miserable as you have been saying. Maybe it has different opportunities after all. All right. Sagittarius, you are having a new mirage when it comes to how you see yourself in the world. And I have to say, I'm seeing both versions here. I'm seeing a lot of Sages changing their place in the world right now. I've seen a couple Sagittarius is like sabotaging their place in the world. And I'm guessing it's because their heart doesn't like that place. But you are to be married to where you want to be in the world. So you may not have been honest with yourself about what you really want. You may not have been honest with yourself about what your heart is really calling to. So be real honest with yourself. I think Sages are so intellectual and philosophical. They don't always listen to their heart and what their heart really wants, because a lot of times what your heart really wants goes against most conventions. And so you have to be a bit of a rebel. So this is a warning to the Sages out there. Listen to your heart when you make this decision. Now, ultimately, you're going to marry to. So it's like what that means literally. I just had someone psychically ask, what's he mean? It means like, are you married to being the hero in the world? Are you married to be the adventurer? Are you married to be, the traveler? It's time to get married to some other part. Like you're something else. Or what you were was not high enough. Okay. So you're going to get married to another part of yourself that represents yourself in the world. This will create a call of action from someone you love. That means a family member, your lover, a child ends up creating a challenge that threatens that new place of belonging. So you have this test to be threatened right out of the throne you just created. That means with Pluto 29, there's suddenly some havoc that might happen, or potential havoc with your finances. So whatever this does, it might threaten your finances. It might threaten how you make money. And that will tell you that, yes, you're on the money when it comes to the lesson, but not having money is not cool, right? So it might threaten your income, basically. And then the consequence of that, is that you will have a change of life story when it comes to where your heart is headed. If you've been marrying yourself to the wrong things in the world, you really haven't been able to be close enough to the person you're with, most likely, because you've been distracted now. This the house all the time. So it could be finding the right place in the world, gives you more time with your family or the people you love, or it could be that you find the right place in the world, and finally you're not this depressed person, unhappy in front of them all the time. You're cheerful. So there's a change of story of your life purpose. Your personal dreams and your golden egg. All right, moving on. Capricorns. Look at this. This is like good versus bad here. The lighting. Capricorns, you are changing the story of self-discipline. So the way you discipline yourself, you were basically married to an a-hole at work. Okay. I know I've been working for Capricorns. You are very hard on yourself. You push yourself too hard. And so the universe is saying you're going to get married to the nice guy or the nice lady inside yourself and let that person be your inner boss. So whoever you're married to inside yourself is the wrong inner boss for you. It's time to find a new inner boss and get married to that new inner boss. The part of you that bosses you around basically is your inner boss. Now, this will create a call of action from your home and family. Something your home and family is going to try to interrupt or stop the flow of this migration to this new power place inside of you about making the right decisions for you. So there's that call. Now, as a result, Pluto at 29 in your sign, you will see that there is some sort of test or threaten of your power in life, all of life. Your ego is checked. Your ego is basically tested and checked by the world. And so all this change you've had with your ego could go right down the tubes, or could be stopped from going to a higher place. And then we, of course, go to the change of story. If in fact that you respond correctly to that call of action from your family, you will then see a new story about where your family or your emotional security will end up. So a change in your emotional story in life as a result of responding to the call of action correctly. All right, moving on. All right. Aquarius. Aquarius, this is a new marriage to your belief in yourself. Big. Aquas are going to have, basically, they're going to get married to what they believe, and they're going to divorce what they don't believe. That's basically it. Whatever you don't believe, kicked out the door with no alimony. Whatever you believe, now you honor, cherish, and commit to. So you're committing to what you believe in yourself. And I don't think that people have a problem with believing in themselves. I think people attempt to believe in something that's just not true. And so you basically lie to yourself. So it's not a matter of, I can't believe in myself. It's that you're trying to believe something you're not. You're trying to believe something that's not who you are. That's usually a false belief. But you're getting married to what you believe in yourself. This will create a call of action in a thought or communication. Some thought, some communication is going to piss you off, most likely, because it's the opposite energy. And so you might find that you are pissed about what that person said. But really, it's a test as to whether or not you are believing yourself or not. So expect that. Pluto at 29 says your relationship to God is going to be a little weary because whatever this test is, it's going to make you wonder, hey, is God watching me or not? Are the angels watching or not? So there'll be a test of power in your heavenly connection and whether or not you feel heaven is there or there in the right way, depending on the sophistication of what you're doing. And then lastly, of course, when we talk about Chiron, if you do all this correctly, according to your heart, etc., you will find that you now have this new story about your creativity, your communication, your thoughts. Ultimately, you're going to realize, wow, my mind is free now to do whatever it wants. And that's because prior, it was holding back probably to support this, in your case, this false belief about yourself. So expect your thoughts to give you a challenge and then your thoughts to end up giving you a boost by the end. And then lastly, but never leastly, the Pisces. We'll start there. Pisces, you are actually getting you are now getting a new mirage when it comes to your trust and boundaries with yourself. It's time to trust yourself differently. It's time to draw different boundaries with yourself. It's time to be there for yourself in a whole new way and divorce the part of you that was half-ass, okay? That sort of like sometimes did it, sometimes didn't, sometimes enforced the boundary, sometimes didn't enforce the boundary. That half-ass approach will not work anymore. It's now time to get married and really trust yourself. Now, there will be a call to action with finances. Something about money, finances, or a product will test those new boundaries with yourself. So expect the test to hit you right in the wallet. Of course, Pluto 29 says you'll also have a change of power in society as a result of these changes or lack of changes. So watch out for a shift of power or a challenge to your power in society. So someone may threaten your throne or threaten your fish tank. And then lastly, of course, with this energy in Chiron, you will start a new story about money and where money can go if you, of course, respond to that call of action appropriately. And that new story might be that you're heading for bankruptcy, or it might be that you're heading for wealth and abundance. Again, that's all dependent on ultimately how you obtain those boundaries inside yourself. Remember, those self-trust and self-boundaries actually prevent you from being taken advantage of the world. So you could say, if you don't implement the new mirage to your boundaries, you're very liable to get taken advantage by the world, and that will probably hit you in the pocketbook. It'll hit you with the wallet. All right, friends, that's all we have for the first portion of our show. That wraps up Namaste Today Live and our soul horoscopes, so we're calling them the future. We're going to do a little intermission here. When I come back, we have a fabulous practitioner to talk to us about energy healing, something I've always wanted to talk about and know more about. Keep streaming. We'll be right back. Welcome to Astro Mingle, the spiritual podcast that mingles with the brilliantly bright light workers and innovative influencers of our time. The concept of energy healing often baffles science and skeptics alike. This idea that we can magically fix someone with the power of our mind seems far out to many, but for some, it's a provable reality. Our guest tonight knows those statistics. Janelle Marra, or Marra, I'll find out in a minute. Janelle Marra is an embodiment teacher and healing practitioner. She's one of the first Americans certified in Siwa Murti. I'll have to get that too. A Balinese energy healing practice. She is trained and has a multiple certified through the Siwa Murti Bali and designed lead teacher of this modality. In addition, she's the co-founder of Soulsway, a dynamic embodiment practice marrying elements of somatics, meditation, conscious movement, and free dance. Janelle's sole mission is to cultivate spaces where people can feel empowered, vibrant, and healthy. Please send me some waves of love and gratitude to welcome our guest tonight, Step 7 Taurus, Janelle Marra. Or Marra, we'll find out. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Will you pronounce your name for me? Because I can't.
No problem. It is indeed Marra, Janelle
Marra.
Marra.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is we have a Marra in our office who I constantly call Marra and get corrected Marra. So it's a little thing for me. So I apologize.
No
Thank you for
problem.
coming on the show.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
And energy healing, I mean, I guess the first obvious is sort of how did you go down this path? Because, you know, even to this day, when people tell me they're sending me Reiki, right? I'm like, gee, thanks. You know, I don't know if I'm going to register it. I don't know if I'm going to notice the change in it. You know, I believe in it, but it's something literally invisible that I can't prove personally. So how did you turn down that path?
How far down or early in the path do you want me to go?
Let's start with age 2. No, I'm kidding.
Well,
I don't know. I guess when you first started seeing glimpses of it, like were you moving objects around with your mind as a kid? Like, what was the first instinct
I
of this?
actually wouldn't say then. It was not that young for me.
Okay.
I would say the germ of it was more in my 20s, actually.
Okay.
In my early 20s. And I had studied psychology in college, and I was really interested in the social aspects, specifically in psychology, like how we're malleable, dependent upon, you know, the environment that we're in.
Right.
And then I took what sometimes I look back at my life and I'm like, wow, those are some interesting detours. But maybe, you know, when I take a big faraway view, it all makes sense. But I then was pursuing acting as a career, which was like, meh. But in actuality, it wasn't, because that was still about this malleability. I was really invested in wanting to like step into another person's shoes and like expand the way that I experience the world, because, you know, each individual we only have our own experience. But, you know, through this, I was very heady, like really I mean, I am a chronic overthinker. 100%. Maybe I'm recovering. I'm not totally sure. Perfectionist, but I do a lot of, you know, headspace thinking. And I was working actually in a restaurant at the time. And this is a very random conversation, but I remember it so clearly. A woman that I worked with who was very grounded, very practical, very smart. She said that she had gone to a workshop where she learned to bend spoons with her mind.
No kidding.
Yeah, she went to a spoon bending thing. And this was like, this was a totally other dimension. And it was the first time that I feel like I saw that you can live both like a human physical world experience and then potentially have something else beyond that. So actually that conversation is what triggered me to start exploring down, you know, different avenues, whether it be law of attraction or a Buddhist practice that I jumped into for many years. You know, consulting with, say, astrologers or psychics or mediums. And that whole world started to open for me. And at the same time, again, it might seem like a detour, but now that I look back, I'm like, it's
all part of the big
kind
picture.
of was a map. kind of
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
map.
Mm.
But I was working at an embodiment company. It was a classes that were focused on feminine embodiment through
Mm.
sensual movement. So I became like really enamored by the power of the body and the conversation of the body and the power, especially in the feminine body
Mm.
and this like life-giving capacity. And I became a birth doula. So
Huh.
that led me into like a um healing through that
Hmm.
way. Yeah, so yeah, like I said, a winding road. That's when I studied Reiki
Okay.
and was bringing that in. I feel like though Reiki wasn't something that I dove deep into, I kept
Hmm.
it at the self-healing level. It was what started to open my intuition and really set me on the path that I eventually landed on.
So it sounds like now I believe in astrology that everything to age 33 is past life recreation. So a lot of the experiences that you were describing were happening in your 20s. So to me, I think your soul is being reminded of the different directions you had gone, during that path, including probably a doula, um, and then, at some point we sort of put all those pieces together and we add on like a magical piece. So what was there a magical piece that went to the leap of, I mean, how does one even become an energy healer practically?
Yes, absolutely. So, as far as my journey into Shiva Murti, to answer your question of how you say it, Shiva Murti.
Yeah.
So
Thank
to
you. Thank you.
yeah, of course. It can also be pronounced Shiva Murti.
Siwa
Shiva and
Murti.
Shiva are just different spellings or and
Oh, no kidding.
pronunciations.
Siwa and Shiva? Huh.
Yes. So,
So Shiva
but
got
Shiva
got some
Murti
out of
is
taken out of
the
that. Yeah.
Balinese
Balinese.
version.
Okay.
So, if you will, of
Ah,
that word. So, anywho, so how did I end up on this particular path was
yeah.
actually after I became a mother.
Huh.
And again, that can be a very transformative moment
Huge. Yeah.
in time.
Yeah. It is.
So yeah, transition for sure. Um, my son, my second child, was about 6 months old at the time, and I was taking my daughter, who was 2.5 or something at the time, to preschool, and there was a flyer on the wall that
Mm.
said, "Experience a complimentary Balinese healing," and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know anything about anything. All I knew is that I did not feel good, like I needed some help. Maybe this was the way to go. And so I walked myself into it, such a wild scene, but in this back room and at my daughter's preschool, there was a demonstration going on for this healing modality.
Hmm.
And it wasn't that I had a profound experience actually via the healing.
Mhm.
It was that I received a message,
Oh,
and it was as clear as a message could be. And it was that I was going to learn this.
huh.
And at that moment, I didn't know, even if it was something that was learnable or
Mm.
if it was something I wasn't looking to take this on. But I felt an undeniable call. And I refused it. I said, no, I'm not doing it. I have a 6 month old. I'm not going to Bali. This is not going to happen for me. No, no, no. And right at the heels of the opportunity to go to Bali and complete the training, I it's as if I couldn't deny it. It
Hmm.
was impossible. It was like I would fall ill if I didn't heed. And so I
Mhm.
did. I got on a plane and
Went to Bali.
somehow worked it out with my young kids, and
Mama's going to Bali.
yeah, that's what happened.
You're a step 7 Taurus in our system that is a naturally intuitive empath. So
Mhm.
is an empathic psychic Taurus by nature. So it sounds like a lot of you are wired to listen to your higher self and the plan is what it sounds like. And do you feel like you had a past life, like a past life in Bali or anything like that, that led to, that might have what set you up to know this ahead of time?
Quite possibly.
Mm.
And I say that because in the kind of foundational learning that I got about the modality and using it before actually going to Bali, it was I didn't feel it. I didn't feel connected to it. I thought, what the heck am I doing? Like, this
Mm,
isn't, this makes no
yeah.
sense. And then it's as if I got off the plane, my feet hit the earth
Mm,
there, and it all became familiar,
uh,
real, visceral. Like, I
yeah.
could feel the energy moving in my body in a way that hadn't before I
Mm,
touched the ground.
that's so interesting.
Hmm.
Ascended Masters trainings have taught that the past life memories of our lives are stored in the locale of the conscious of Earth. So when we go to that locale, we reactivate the memories. And you're kind of proof that that might be possible, steadying foot on the ground and connecting to that hard drive of Mother Earth. Very interesting. And this pull, and everyone just has, a pull to a foreign land. That's quite often the story. They get off and then they
Hmm.
have like a flashback or something like that. So from there, where does this modality come from? Is it old? Is it something ancient that we just don't know about because we've isolated Bali in our minds and not traveled there except to colonize? Like
Sure.
yeah, I mean like that's been our
um,
only interest until now.
yeah, it's both. Yes, absolutely. So as far as Bali and, um, the culture there, there's healing modalities it's like it births healing modalities. It births
Mm,
healers. There is nothing unusual about visiting a healer in Bali. It's like a part of the lifeblood of the
mhm,
island.
mm,
And so, all of these healers, the way I would explain it is that all of these healers there, yes, they're tapping into the same well of energy, right? They're accessing this. I mean, if you ask me, we're all tapping into the same well of energy. We're just putting a different face and a different label and a different, um, you know, norm on it, but they're all tapping into the same. And that is ancient, that is universal wisdom, that's universal consciousness, that's the divine, that's any label you want to put on it. This particular recipe, I guess I'll call it,
mm,
comes from a living teacher in
mm.
Bali.
Still
So
living.
I, mhm,
So it's
yes,
young. It's a young practice then by
it's a young
nature.
practice.
Yeah. Mm,
The teachings are old. The foundation is
okay.
what runs through the whole island. But the way I look at it is like a recipe. So you can make a cake a bunch of different ways and you're going to get a cake. But like how much of this you put in versus how much of that you put in.
Mhm.
So this is our teacher. His name is Ratu Nabe. Our teacher, or that's a shortened version of his name. But
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah.
his specific recipe for tapping into and using this energy is called Shiva Murti.
Shiva Murti, okay.
Hmm.
Or Shiva Murti, either way,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Just to be clear. So it's the way she taps in the energy that makes it distinctly different? Is that the
Yes.
gateway?
Yeah.
Okay. And is
So
she
it's
tapping to an entity or is she tapping to the universe? Is it like someone dead that's like housing this up in heaven? What's the story of what's above?
sure. Tapping into different um, deities
Okay.
or energies,
Yeah.
very similar to, say, like the Native American medicine wheel
Right.
or the archangels and Christian
Yes.
mysticism.
Hmm.
That idea, you're pulling in different elemental energies that are given names and faces and attributes and
Hmm.
called a certain something and carry the a certain power that you can then wield as a tool.
Okay, awesome. So her signature was the recipe of entities that is probably what makes it unique then, it sounds like.
I actually would not say that. I would say
Okay.
that every healer in Bali is using those same ingredients,
Okay.
but it's how they're mixed together in, say, the daily practice. Like, I don't
Okay.
know what another Balinese healer's daily practice is,
Okay. Oh,
but it's rich in prayer and devotion and uh yeah, prayer and devotion. And the meditative elements that they bring in might be slightly different than the ones Ratunabe is bringing in and then passing down to us.
mm.
Does
So it's
that
sort
make
of like,
sense?
yeah, it's sort of like the angelics in the sense of No, let's pray to Archangel Michael, get you a little protection. We're going to go to Gabriel and get you some, new vocal cords. We sort of put together this concoction. And do you find that practitioners have their signature, or the signature varies by the patient?
Across Bali, they definitely have different signatures.
Okay.
It can be articulated in many different ways. Someone might be more closer to something like a massage, while another healer might be closer to something like Reiki, while another healer might be doing something totally else that we've never seen before.
Right.
And I'm not sure that was your question, actually.
Well, the question kind of was, are they? It sounds like the practitioners have different recipes, period, than the source creation. But then I was wondering, does the recipe vary to the patient? Is it a special concoction, an elixir for the patient, or does each practitioner have their elixir that you go and get? Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I think I understand what you're saying. So, let me back it up just a little bit. So what I have learned as a Shiva Murti practitioner is a daily practice that involves an invoking chant. It involves meditative elements. It involves a Kundalini practice. It involves some visualizations. And that is what serves to keep my vessel clean or clear, or able to channel this, whether you call it life force energy or the divine, or Shiva Murti, that enables me to then channel it. And then how I then use how I then use my hands to work on a body is different than the practice I do in my own time. And as far as how I'm working on a body, that more or less looks the same. But depending on the body that I'm working on, I'll be calling in different energies and modulating in different ways. Some ailments might need like a real heavy hit, while others might need like a real loving, gentle cradling. And so it's not that what I'm doing is any different, but it's the intention with which I'm articulating it.
Okay, so you're holding a signal, so to speak, with an intention, and then that signal is changing per client's needs. Gotcha.
Yes. Gosh, that was well said.
Oh, thank you.
I'm gonna watch this back and then
just
write that down.
watch your notes on your career. That's interesting. So, what kind of ailments, so to speak, would a person see you for?
Wow, it's really quite a spectrum.
I bet.
It really is. Can be so astounding with this, which is what I have found in my experience, and my experience is only mine, of course, but what has set it apart for me from other energy healing practices is the immediate effect, especially when it comes to something on the physical level. So for example, someone, has this much range of motion in their shoulder, and I work on them for 20 seconds to a minute and a half, focusing on that, and the shoulder can lift.
Wow.
It's immediate. And when I say that, is it 100% of the time? Can I guarantee that? No, but I actually go into everything expecting it, because it's something I can nearly promise. Same with pain. Like, you woke up and your neck is out of whack and you can't turn it, or whatever it is. Low back pain, sciatic pain. The list, like, I'm just thinking of someone that I saw very recently. She came in for more of like a more emotional level work, and she hadn't mentioned to me that on the physical level, she hadn't been able to sit crisscross in 20 years or something. I didn't know that. But after the session, she said, my hips feel great. And she popped her legs up into a cross-legged sit and just started crying, saying, I haven't been able to do that in forever. And we weren't even intentionally working on that. And what I also find astounding about this practice is that it does work. It looks like all energy healing modalities do. It looks at the body holistically. So it's not going to separate like the, the shoulder from the hip, or separate the top of the spine from the bottom of the spine. We're
Mhm.
looking at the whole picture, but
Mhm.
then also we're not separating out what's happening on the physical from what's happening on the emotional or the
Mm.
psychological or
Yeah.
the ancestral.
Okay.
And what's awesome, I find very liberating, is that as a practitioner, I don't need to know at what level it's working. I
Mhm.
often get an intuitive hit, but I don't need to know it. I
Mm.
just look at how the body reacts and can trust that the energy is wiser than I am. There's
Mm.
nothing I can know
Mhm.
that's, bigger than what this source energy knows. So if it needs to work at the physical level, it's going to work at the physical level. If it's going to work at the psychological level, it's going to work at the psychological level.
Works
So,
everywhere, the entire incarnation. Um,
absolutely.
which goes to say, obviously the intelligence is coming from the sources, right? Which are obviously more intelligent than we are. So you're a
Yeah.
conduit, you're a crystal, you're an interface, so to speak, between them and you, I guess. Have you gotten to know these energies like personally? Do you get messages from them? Have you decoded one as like, oh, that's Archangel Michael, I think, and they're, have you started to find where Western might be calling it this and they're calling it that, and we're both praying to the same entity?
I have recently started to have that experience. I have always believed that experience.
Okay, so now you're getting
So,
evidence. Yeah.
yeah. So when I first started to pick up this practice, I was like, oh, this is a little outside my wheelhouse. Like, I'm not Balinese. I'm also not Hindu. And
Mhm.
this practice is rooted in Balinese Hinduism, which is
Mhm.
so specific.
Mhm.
Um, and I struggled a little bit
Mhm.
with the naming of it.
Mhm. I would.
And yeah, and but I knew, like, this is just the mask that's put on it. Like, I
Mhm.
guess, I don't know, Joseph Campbell is coming into my mind now, like the
Uh-huh.
masks.
Yeah.
That's what maybe I was remembering or using, I'm not certain. But
Mhm. Yeah.
very recently, I was just telling someone this recently, and it was very kind of like exciting and fascinating to me. There's no doubt in my mind that Mother Mary came through in a healing.
Mother
And I
Mary.
and I thought, "Oh,
You're Hindu? No, I'm kidding.
yeah, it was very much like that's the energy that came through."
Mm.
And my mind, labeled it Mother Mary.
Mhm.
And because that I don't know why, but
Mhm.
that's who it was to me that came through. And it wasn't like, "Oh my gosh, get out of here. You don't belong in this," like,
Right.
this grouping.
Yeah. I've always felt, I mean, I have no proof because I haven't been outside of my own belief structure and studied, spiritually abroad, if you will,
Mhm.
into other cultures very much or other deities. But I've seen and felt that I have a feeling I'll see like a special. I'm like, I think they're praying to Archangel Michael, or, the same character that just dresses as that character in their culture has been forever in their culture. Their culture, characterized in the terms of that culture and the flavor of that culture and the color of that, you know what I mean? So I wonder if we're all just, praying to these same entities and they're holding in space. And, I think even in Western energy, it's the same thing. Archangels hold a vibration, a certain vibration. You go to the
Mhm.
angel, you're going to get a big dose of that vibration in that moment. So I can see the parallels. So in that context, how do you think it works? Do you think that it's going through you, or you're like, that's the target and you're pointing out the target, and you feel like the energy is coming in and somehow re-architecting the energy of those cells? I mean, I know you don't know, but you
Mhm.
certainly must be curious.
Yes, I mean, I do have a sensory experience of the
You
energy
do.
moving through
Okay.
me. I do. As far as then what it does once it comes through and then to the other person, I
Mhm.
do see things.
Oh.
And actually, when I say see, I'm using that very broadly, because I am actually, sometimes I get very visual hits, but that's not necessarily my clairvoyant gift. I'm more of a sensing density, if that makes any sense. That's how I feel it. So, like, I'll feel the energy go in, and it either resists or it
Mm.
or it gives. it
Mm-hmm.
moves in a certain direction and I can
Mm.
follow it.
Mm.
And sometimes I'm following it and sometimes I'm guiding it, depending.
Oh, no
It's like
kidding.
this dance back and forth. That's the best I think I can explain it, because it
Hmm.
is rather unexplainable.
Right.
I sometimes I feel like the energy congealing, and then I can actually feel as if I can pull it out, like there's a substance in my hand, and just
Hmm.
throw it away.
Hmm. Interesting. Goop.
Hmm.
Yeah. I've seen those psychics that like clean your aura and stuff, like
Hmm.
at fairs and stuff. And it being in that experience, they do feel like just they're pulling goop off, they're putting love in. There's like this whole sort of gas station moment there where they're just kind of changing the oils and topping off the fluids. So do you say you have a visceral experience yourself? What does that feel like?
Um, it can come in kind of different flavors, I guess.
Hmm.
Oftentimes it's temperature shifts,
Ah.
or it's color, but I can't I mean, I guess I do see it, but it's more like I can feel the color
Mm.
is how it is. It's kind of like a sense mixing.
I gotcha.
What's that
Yeah.
word? Synesthesia is kind of what it feels like. I mean, I don't have that gift unless I'm working.
Right.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I would say most often it's temperature shifts, or it can be like feedback within my own body. I'll be working on someone and I'll get a hit, like, oh gosh, I just got a ping in my shoulder. Oh, there's something going
Ah.
on in their shoulder. My
Oh, that's interesting. So
body
you're having
took a
that mirror
message.
effect. Yeah.
Hmm.
A lot of medical intuitives say that they'll pick up like, ow, they'll pick
Yeah.
up on the body, on their body, like a kind of voodoo doll, what's going on in the client. That's very
Hmm.
interesting. So that sounds kind of miraculous, in the sense of what you've experienced. And it sounds like it's like Jesus Christ level healing. You're just sort of, whoop, that's it. So Jesus Christ certified right there. That said, do these healings stick, forever? Because I found that with some energy healers, you're like, okay, you feel better. And then like a week later, they remanifest the situation. Is it a permanent solution, for lack of a better term?
It depends on the situation.
Hmm.
In many cases, yes. If we're talking about something where you slept on your neck wrong for
Okay.
one night and there isn't a bigger thing going on, then yeah, one session it's fine. It was just a night's sleep that caused the problem, or a
Okay.
bad pillow or whatever. But that said, if you have chronic back pain because you're sleeping on a mattress that is going to constantly aggravate your back, then you might need a new mattress. Um,
Right.
could
And
be
you
the
don't
thing.
get
I
one,
can
you're see
keep
me next
like,
week. Yeah.
yeah, I can keep new mattresses are great. I can keep, helping alleviate, but if we're not getting to the root cause, then it could come back. And that might be a root cause such as a mattress, or that
Hmm.
might be a root cause as in we're not getting to the genesis of it within the body.
Hmm.
So, in a perfect world, I see clients one time. I mean,
Really?
I know it's not a great business model, but that's what I'm going for.
Yeah. You
And
should
that
follow
doesn't mean
Western
that's
medicine and
always.
keep them sick a little longer.
I would much rather have someone
Hmm.
say, "Oh my gosh, I didn't have back surgery." Um,
Right.
and I'm going to tell a friend. I'd much
Yeah.
rather
Gotcha.
have that experience than
Right.
having someone come back and feel like they're dependent or whatever. Um, so that was a
Yeah.
long-winded answer to, is it permanent? And I would
Right.
say it can be if we get to the root cause.
Okay. You could do like an upsell for like an extra $5. It won't come back, or refer a friend. That'd be fun. That'd be a good upsell. But so what about diagnosis of cause? I mean, I think that that's also important at the end of the day. Like in astrology, I can pretty much diagnose the cause of most of the diseases that appear in their body.
Mhm.
Astrologically, you can see that the soul was just sort of entangled about a certain issue and eventually, presented in the body.
Mhm.
You get to that issue in the healing, or is that like an extra $5? You know what I mean? Like,
Um, I am not, I'm definitely not charging an extra $5.
I'm just teasing
And
you.
I know, and I'm also not putting myself in the position of diagnosing.
Well,
Um,
I know that's a bad word. Damn it. I knew that. I
yeah.
didn't say it.
Oh, and I don't mean, I mean, I know I can't say, I can't diagnose. I'm not a medical doctor. Disclaimer, I am not a medical
Right.
doctor. See
Just for
everybody who
fun,
hasn't.
entertainment. Just having fun, healing people
But no,
randomly.
truly, I feel like it's not actually my job. And I'm not saying that from a,
Ah,
like, I don't want to be in legal trouble. I'm saying that, like, I don't actually think it's my job.
right.
If I do get a knowing,
Ah.
then I might share it
Mm.
depending on, I usually share it.
Mhm.
But I don't always, to be honest. It's not,
Interesting.
it's
It's not
like
part
if
of the
it,
healing. It's not part of the practice. Yeah.
yeah, if someone's shoulder can now, if they now have 100 degrees of, mobility, like, life is good. We don't need to know what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah. Okay. Huh. That's very interesting.
Hmm.
And so, is there interest in knowing? Like, I guess the clientele doesn't either. They're just like, for lack of a better term, that's like a chiropractor. You're just like, and getting back on the street.
People definitely want to know. They're always
Okay.
like, "Ooh, what does that mean? Ooh, what does that mean? Ooh, why that spot?" So they definitely want to know.
Hmm.
And I guess I'll walk you through actually what, not walk you, we don't need to go through the whole thing, but when I'm working on a body in person, because I do also work virtually and remotely,
I was
but
gonna
when I'm
ask that.
working
Yeah.
on a body in person, I'm actually, using test points similar to like acupressure points. They're not the same as those points, but there's a roadmap that we use to test for energetic blocks. And so if something comes up, like, oh, there's an energetic block here, people always say, well, what's that? What's that
Hmm.
connected to?
Even I'm like, what is it?
And
Yeah.
it's interesting because the first year we went to study with our teacher in Bali, he definitely offered some correlations, like this often means this often means this, so on and so forth.
Hmm.
And so we, being like wanting to get this right, wanting there to be an answer and a diagnosis and, be able to write something down, we're like, yes, X means Y. And then the next year, going again and learning more, some of those things were, the correlations were different. And we were like,
Mm.
wait a second, my notes don't match. What's going on here? And you know, he essentially said, well, it meant that on that body, but it means
Oh,
this on this body.
whoa.
And that was kind of a big whoa moment
Yeah.
of, let's not get married to a whoa.
Whoa, that's the trick. How do you do that in Bali?
I don't
That
know.
was an
On
apple.
Zoom,
Yeah.
I accidentally do it all the time, but I don't know if it's the same. I don't know how to do
If,
it. I
if
don't
you're
know,
on
but
your
it's
phone, it is.
exciting.
It's an Apple thing. Yeah. Thanks, Steve Jobs. That was a hello from Steve Jobs in heaven.
Awesome. Um, so I don't know if I finished that thought because I got distracted by the
Yeah, no
balloons, but
problem. Thanks, Steve Jobs. No, I'm kidding. So what you were saying is that the definition seemed to change per client. That there is no absolute interpretation, kind of like dream interpretation. A red balloon in one person means this. A red balloon in another person means the death of your father. Like, and does it always vary like that, or is it like seasonal?
no, there are some consistency. Like, I can pretty much say if a point here comes up that we're talking about some level of anxiety, and whether that
Mm,
be, I had a stressful drive on the way over, or whether I have a chronic anxiety, clinical anxiety issue. It could be either of those things, but that's
mm,
probably what that is.
mm,
So there are some things that do have stronger correlations than other points.
okay. And so, and what we're talking about here is again the causality. We're trying to determine what the causality is or what's happening underneath.
Mhm.
Is there is there ever causality such as depression
Yeah.
or grief? Kind of more Western physical. Western healing seems to be going. It's like, oh, lung stuff, it's grief. Oh, left side it's spirit, right side it's ego. Is there that sort of dissection of where it presents versus always presents this way, goes to an emotional issue underneath?
Yeah. That's funny that you brought up the lungs and grief or depression, because that is an example point that I often give to people
Mm,
when I'm talking about the fact that this energy will work at whatever level it needs to work on. So, for example, there is a point that is signaling the lungs. But in doing so, it might be signaling the physical lung, like they were a smoker for 20 years. And so, there's something going on with the lungs, something like that on the physical level. There might be that there is sadness and grief in the immediate moment, that something they suffered an accident recently, or there can be um, chronic depression. It can be any of those things. It can be
Ah,
something that's on the physical level, the emotional level, or the psychological level. So when I find that point, um, and that comes up, someone might share that there's something going on with their physical lung, but it doesn't matter. I'm just going to clear the point. I'm going to clear that area. I'm going to clear
mm,
that block, whether that block is a result of, like I said, physical, emotional, psychological, or ancestral, generational, all of those things. I don't need to know. I just clear
mm.
it.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I mean, the only reason I want to know is so it didn't happen again. You know what I mean? Kind of, or in the case of grief,
Hmm.
in astrology, a lot of time. I mean, astrology, I can pretty much. Someone has cancer, I can see astrologically what triggered it. What triggered it? Like you can see spiritually what was being called up by the planets, and then they're telling us what the diagnosis is, and I'm seeing patterns, over and over and over again of breast cancer, over and over, what the situation was before and after, and in that context, quite often with cancer, it's a repression of emotion. So a tight ass guy who just won't allow himself to feel, prostate, a woman who takes on the feelings of her whole family and doesn't allow herself to feel, breast cancer, just over and over and over again. They were born with that condition. They were born with that sort of posture, and it led to this outbreak. So to me, the interest is, well, I don't want to go back in that posture, if that's the causality, as far as my behavior on Earth. But it sounds like that this practice is more about acute not diagnosis, but realization of what it is and healing of what it is immediately. Oh,
Mm, I'm pausing because I'm like, I don't know if yeah, I don't think you're wrong,
okay.
in your assessment, because I mean, I as a practitioner get very excited about the acute measurable things.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Mm.
Th- but like taking, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. Yes, you are right, sir.
Oh, good. That's a first. I'm grateful. Well, I'm also, I think we have a lot of people who are on your path. Like we have a lot of people who watch the show who really want to be versions of us or different, not us, but like they want to be in this practice. People are
Mhm.
tired of Western business and whatnot. So really my question is so that I think that people may follow in your footsteps after tonight, because
Mm.
honestly, this is the first energy healing I've ever heard of that has a curriculum and has an outcome that seems to be mostly working on a otherwise, for instance, Reiki, like give me Reiki. Reiki is like, I don't know what Reiki is. It seems like the penny, whereas you have a silver dollar there in your pocket. Because I have Reiki all the time and I never feel any achy breaky Reiki ever inside myself. What's the difference between you say Reiki and your practice?
Um, Great question. And again, I don't disagree with anything. I also really love Reiki. I don't use it as a practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever I receive a Reiki session, I feel like I've gone to the spa. Like I feel really
Mm-hmm.
good. I feel really rebalanced. I feel really nurtured.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, I find there's great value in that.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. I have never had a Reiki session in which, my shoulder had been dislocated and then it's not, kind of thing. That's a little extreme. But,
Right.
that my spine was out of alignment and now it's not.
Right.
I haven't had that direct kind of solve
Mm-hmm.
with Reiki. Um,
I've never seen it. Yeah.
yeah, and that I have seen that kind of direct result happen time and time and time and time and time and time and time again with this. And why is that the case? Because I don't think we're doing something different. I mean, it's my belief system, and so I don't want to put my belief system upon anyone else, but I think I said somewhere else in this program, I think we are all tapping into the same energy. We're
Mm-hmm.
just labeling it different,
Mm-hmm.
or pulling it forward in a different manner, or
Mm-hmm.
putting a different mask on it. Um, but what I think is so powerful specifically about this Balinese practice is, number one, the unique synergy energy of Balinese culture and kind of the wealth of spirituality and sacredness that has birthed this
Mm-hmm.
particular recipe.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, the fact that we do have a living teacher. And I think that that's
Yeah.
unusual.
Yeah.
Um, so to me, if I could, like when I visualize it, it's, you know, he's actually a high priest as well in
Mm.
Balinese Hinduism. And so he's in priestly meditation and practice and prayer and ceremony and ritual all the time. So to
Mm.
me, it almost feels like there's actually a living person, you know, kind of holding a portal open, if you will.
Mhm.
And we're kind of able to be directly tapped into that portal more
That makes
easily.
that makes total sense. I agree. And then when he probably passes on, I don't want to speak for him, but he might be the Jesus that you go to, then triangulates to the other ones and becomes like this super forever thing, right? Like who knows? That's really interesting. You know,
Hmm.
kind of like human design with Ra. You know, a new way of looking. There's another. You know, he's passed away recently, but
Hmm.
very interesting, life changing perspective as well.
Hmm.
I would say also, just hearing what you speak, knowing what I know about metaphysics, yeah, anything entangled. If you have a culture that already believes this is possible, that
Hmm.
doesn't have like a Western medicine arguing how they're crazy and they're quacks, there's no contrary belief structure coming in all the time attacking your belief structure, and you're 100% in belief. I believe that if you 100% believe, you can do it, period. That the matrix is designed to follow 100% belief. So if you believe and the whole culture believes around you, and the guy who designed it sitting at, you can see him on Sunday, I think it's solved the whole belief structure. Maybe Reiki for me is that I'm skeptical of it. Not that it exists,
Hmm.
but maybe my skepticism makes it bounce off. That alone. If I'm not going to
Maybe
receive,
so.
yeah, I'm not sure. Interesting. So let's talk about the process of learning it. This sounds really great. I mean,
Hmm.
uh, honestly, because I know we have a lot of people who follow us who want to get into energy healing, who are Reiki practitioners, which is kind of where
Hmm.
I'm going with this. Like,
Mm.
are you scoring the same as she is? You know, it sounds like there'd be a lot of people interested in this and learning this. What's the process like? How long does it take? What's the
Sure.
investment? Hmm.
Yeah. Um, ha- a lot of Reiki practitioners do come through this. It's definitely an attractive,
Hmm.
exciting modality for people who are already well versed in Reiki. And it makes sense. Like I said, you know, though I didn't take Reiki to the next level, for me, I feel like it was the first opening of that channel for me. So it makes
Hmm.
sense that somebody who's, you know, working with Reiki and already
Right.
like accustomed to being a channel, um, would be drawn to this. So,
Yeah.
anywho, I'll start there and then I will get down to the nitty gritty. So, I am one of three designated teachers here in the United States.
Wow.
And we sometimes, the three of us sometimes teach together, and then we also teach privately. So there's a course between, you know, me or all three of us might happen, say, 4 times a year.
Mm,
And we have a foundational course that
mm,
teaches the first level of the practice. And that is a 6 or 7 week course, depending on the size of the class. Just sometimes we have to
mhm,
crunch it down or bulk it up a little bit because, you know, Q and A's are very exciting and lively
mm,
when you have a big class. So
yeah.
a 6 to 7 week course.
Mm,
And from that point, we have ongoing support, which I actually think is a huge thing that sets it apart, at least from my experience of
oh,
learning
yeah.
Reiki. And this was 20 years ago, but that we hold weekly free Zooms, like
Mm,
come practice together, ask questions, get
mm,
support, do healings on one another, like eradicate, help each other eradicate the doubt, because like you said earlier, you know, to the our minds that
yeah.
say like I'm a skeptic, like this can't work. You have all these
Right.
people saying like who's my cuckoo neighbor, you know, like oh
Mhm,
my gosh, you know, whatever it is, doing voodoo over there. Um and so to be in one another's company where we can say, oh no, remember that time that person who, you know, couldn't stand up straight, like leapt off the table and like ran around your living room. You know, we can remind each other of these
wow.
things.
Mm,
So ongoing support, I think, is a huge factor. And then if one so chooses to take it to that next level direct initiation in Bali, we do
mm,
a yearly training.
mm.
So our
In
next one
Bali?
is come in Bali. Yes.
Whoa, okay.
So after doing the level 1 program,
Mm,
you practice on friends and family, you really harness this, you're dedicated to your practice, and you say, yes, I want to go take this, you know, next level and work directly with the master teacher in Bali, the originator of this.
mm,
And so once a year we do a training and we go, it's about 10 days. and we train with the teacher there for 7 of those 10 days.
Mm.
And it takes everything really next
Yeah,
level.
I imagine.
Yeah.
And is it next level in the sense of if you don't go to Bali, there's things you won't know?
I don't want to say, I mean, yes, there are things you maybe.
Like secret schools of knowledge or like that. Like only so much is in the public. Then you got to go to the main temple for the actual stuff they don't tell you.
Yeah, I would not say that so much. It
Okay.
isn't like we are keeping information secret that you can only know if you went to Bali. However, there are then levels that follow.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, through our teacher in Bali, have devised a way to kind of level this out in a progression that makes sense for
Mm-hmm.
the progression that also occurs for a Shiva Murti healer that's learning this in Bali.
Mm-hmm.
So after going to Bali, one does then have the opportunity to move into the next level of the practice.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that yes, you have to go to get that next level,
Mm-hmm.
but you absolutely can be a practitioner and use this without going to Bali. I would never say to somebody, you have to go or you're not going to be a powerful healer. I have seen very powerful healers
Mm-hmm.
um, not going. That said, I didn't feel anything until I stepped my feet onto
Right.
the island,
Mm-hmm.
and then it became real for me. So
Mm-hmm.
I think different people have a different journey with it.
Totally. I mean, it sounds like you had a healing journey. I mean, I know from looking at your chart, you had issues with healing in past lives. So this is a conversation your higher self is having with you already. I'm not surprised that, for you is that experience. And yes, I imagine there's raw talent where someone just has raw talent in the sense of past life healing in a different modality. So they don't need to go to Bali. They got this, but I'd also imagine too, that as far as sophistication of particular illness or whatever, there might be a hierarchy as far as, how to hold space. I'm not sure, it would seem logical that it would be that way, but no.
I have seen some incredible things happen with very, very new practitioners. Incredible. So, and I'm also going to say, go to Bali, because that is like really where the gold is at. So both are true. Oh, wait, I can't hear you anymore. And I wonder why.
That's me. That was a click on me. Sorry.
Okay.
That was a hearing test. It worked. No, I'm kidding. My fault. No, I myself probably would go to Bali because I'd want to talk. You can talk to the originator, Jesus. I would go. Not Jesus, but him. I would go and want to talk just from that, or be in the presence of, just to kind of feel that vibe personally, And I also feel spirit would find a way to pay for it if you really wanted it, blah, blah, blah. If money's an object. What about the fact that Western medicine is messing with us with medicine, putting toxins and poisons in our body, that we're not supposed to be there in the first place, right? At least not according to God consciousness. And now they are. They're present. These heavy metals, all this borium, all this stuff being sprayed in the skies. Does that throw off the magic, or does the magic overwhelm, take over that intrusion?
That's a very great question that I haven't been asked directly like that. I will say that some of the more difficult, in my experience, and again, another practitioner might say, oh man, that's a breeze for me. But in my experience, some of the most difficult things are like detoxing a body. Because it's not like a one-hit wonder.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's tons of different toxins that then interact with the toxins and create new baby toxins. It's a mess, so I can imagine it's several layers and probably something you need to get once a year living in America. You know what I mean? Like how much we're picking up at the moment. So that's interesting that you say that. So, but is detox a common thing? What's a common thing? People going, what's a tune-up with you? Tune-ups, or is it just if I break an arm?
People don't typically, I think because it's new, firstly, I'm going to say that. People aren't, to be honest, like knocking down the door being like, oh my God, I heard you do Shiva Murti. They do if their friend is now moving their neck and they couldn't. But this is so new as far as like being outside of Bali, that it's very much like a direct word of mouth experience, as far as, being able to do this work. But people don't, I find, without trusting that it's a thing, don't come unless they have a thing. I don't typically have people coming and going like, "Ooh, let me just like have an overall good feeling from Shiva Murti." They'll go get a massage or something. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
something that they trust and know and have done before. But if someone says, I can barely get out of bed because of whatever I did to my back,"
Mm-hmm.
and then I say, "Well, I can help you with that." And then I do. And
Mm-hmm.
then they're going to come over the next time because they want to just have a feel great experience, like a tune up, if you will.
Yeah.
So
Or
I find,
preventative, like maybe
yeah,
some preventative. Yeah, interesting. And I think sometimes too, for those who are watching, it's like people hit a level of desperacy, where I find with a lot of other alternative practices in healing, it wasn't until they'll tell you, I tried every Western doctor, I tried every specialist, I tried everything. And then I went to this woman who calls herself this. Like they had to exhaust their belief structure entirely. And then they're willing to try something finally, because it just can't get rid of you. If you can help with chronic pain, I mean, pain seems to be the number one thing causing addiction to opiates, and things like that from Western medicine, cutting into you and, cutting you up and saying the surgery you need. And then the pain never stops. And doctors going, we don't have a cure for that. Something like that to me is just like where you would grow the most fastest.
absolutely. I mean, you're absolutely right. I'm just thinking like I'm backtracking through my mind now of all the times like someone's, um, you know, message to me afterwards or testimonial that they wrote or whatever it is says, I had tried everything. I had done this and that. The doctor had no further solutions except like cut my foot off. I mean, not
Yeah.
that, but like let's do a
Oh,
surgery. I'm actually remembering one of my, if I can share, one of
no, of
my
course you can.
most exciting, and I'm still like, oh, this was just solidified for me. Like I am in the right place. Like I'm on the path. Like this is a yes. No
Mm-hmm.
matter how much doubt might come up, no matter how, kooky my neighbor might think I am or whatever, like I've got to stay the course.
Mm.
Was one of my dear friends. She was scheduled to have a double back surgery. It was like she was going to have to do
Mm.
one surgery and then heal and do another surgery. Her
Mm.
whole life was like going to be thrown out of whack. And
Wow.
this was from an old injury. She had fallen off a
Mm.
ladder like I don't know 3 years prior or something like that. I don't remember now the timeline. um and I said, give me a week. I was like, give me a week.
Wow.
And this was virtual. This was via her photo. And I had
Wow.
just learned, this was the thing. I had just learned this, which is why I'm like so excited. It really was. It was like the divine coming through and saying, like, let me give you a really strong message.
Show you who's possible. Yeah.
I worked on her every day for a week.
Okay.
And she never had those back surgeries. She never
Wow.
had those back surgeries. I mean, this is a true story. Like, where is she? Joy? Come on,
Come on,
bring
we have
Joy.
Joy on now. Yeah,
There
yeah.
she is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two choruses on TV show. This is gonna happen. That's really fascinating.
hmm
And I wonder, are you having to be careful with the way you describe things? Because from what I hear, the FDA, the government, is really trying to crack down on anyone that claims they can do anything other than a medicine, a medical doctor, and that sort of thing. Have you seen any pressure or anything like that?
I am not a medical doctor. I diagnose
Okay,
nothing.
right. This is
And,
entertainment.
I help the body heal naturally because I
Mhm.
actually do. That is actually what's happening.
You're talking
You
to the
know,
doc. No, that's what I'm going to ask you. So are you just talking to the body going, hey, body, move over here, do this? Gotcha.
I'm s- working with energy that helps facilitate that. Remembering
Mm.
is the word that's coming to me. The body's remembering of,
Oh, yeah, I can heal myself. I forgot.
hmm
That's
yeah,
fascinating.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what Jesus said, too, in another book that was channeled, which is interesting. But allegedly, this channel book where Jesus is channeling, okay, you believe it or not, but he's basically saying, I didn't heal anyone. I convinced the body to do it, is what he said in this particular book. I just convinced the body it was worth doing, and so the body
Mm.
agreed and it happened. And immediately and spontaneously, right? We know there's spontaneous healing from other strange events like near-death experiences. There's documented by scientists, by doctors that went into the coma, gonna die. Came out, miraculous healing. Body just decided it's gonna do it. So we have it documented that this happens on its own, right? So I can't imagine it's impossible for you to encourage it or send a memo, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. Encourage it and send a memo. I'm revising my website tomorrow.
You can use it. You can use it. What amazes me is the remote part. Whoa. That's like the drive-through of sickness. I mean, I can go on a website, order a healing, be sitting on the couch watching something like Golden Girls and, oh, I'm healed because you got to it. You know, it's like, well, you said it's many days for remote healing, but remote healing is pretty powerful because that means anyone watching the show could get a remote healing with you, I'm assuming.
They sure could. Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. And what is that like? I mean, do you tell them, okay, sit down, I'm about to do it? Because I've had healers that do that, where they like have to sit still, and or is it they just, you know, they're suddenly at the grocery store and like, oh my God, there it goes, you know, like I can move again. It's just great.
Yeah, I usually give somebody kind of an idea of like, I'm going to be working on you this morning at some point.
Okay.
But no,
Mhm.
it's not there's nothing required on the recipient's end. You know, they don't need to be in a meditation. They don't need to be lying down. They don't need to
Wow.
be focused on making the healing happen. I mean, I do find them knowing it's coming is helpful in that it opens possibility maybe in their mind, that memo, easier for the memo to get received, let's say.
Mm,
Um, and
mm.
yeah, but it is, I can't even tell you the number of times that I'm working on somebody and you know, I often do work on them on a picture that's on my phone. I actually prefer it not to be a picture on my phone, but like I just don't get around to printing them that often. So I usually work on the pictures on my phone.
Save the trees.
And I will, what's that?
You're saving the trees. It's a good thing.
I am saving the trees. This is
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Absolutely. And the printer ink, that goes fast.
Yes,
So
it
I'm
does.
usually on my phone doing it. The main reason I don't like using my phone, not that I need to get into the particulars, is because I do a lot of things and I'll end up swiping and then I lose the picture down the camera roll. I'm like, oh my gosh, where'd they go? I'm mid.
Meanwhile, like
energy's
Christmas,
floating
people at
around.
your
I can't
Christmas
find
party,
it.
you're like
Lost.
healing random people in your pictures. Like, woo.
This is great. Maybe that should be the thing. I'm like gallery view.
Yeah.
But anywho, yeah. So I will, how often I will be working on someone and they will say, are you working on me?
Oh, right there. Bling comes in what text message.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. That happens.
That's so cool.
It's not unusual.
Yes.
And that said, it's not always like with when I'm working via pictures, it is often a bit of a back and forth. Like,
Mm.
okay, I just worked on you. How's it feeling? And then they go, oh yeah, oh, it moved. Because that happens also. Like, let's say the issue was they had some pinch here. And then I'll text them or whatever and say, hey, I just worked on you. And they'll say, ooh, now my elbow's funny. And I'm like, oh gosh, okay, well, it moved, but it's not out yet. So then work on that. Okay, what's going on here? Ooh, now it's in the back of my shoulder. So
Oh.
we can sometimes have this little runaround
Mm.
that is no problem. It's just a part of the process. So I actually prefer whenever possible, especially if it's someone that is that I don't know already or have some kind of rapport with. I like to meet with them over like a Zoom platform so that we can have in the moment dialogue so that
Mm.
I can, you know, be doing what I'm doing and they say, oh, I feel it moving. Oh, tension is releasing there. Oh, but now I'm feeling something weird in my fingers. Oh, and we can have the back and forth in the moment and just get it done.
The moving part is very interesting because that definitely says it's energetic, right? Or
Mhm.
is the illness self-aware? So like, run. Is it moving? You know, what's happening there?
I think sometimes it is.
Self-aware.
Sometimes it feels like a game of chase, almost like, ooh, not gonna get me. Ooh,
Yeah.
not sometimes it can be like if somebody says, like, let's say one knee hurts and then the next knee hurts the next day. They're
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, my right knee's great, but now my left knee's got a problem.
Mm.
It's possible that that went whoop and found a new place.
Mhm.
But what's also possible is that it's now the body's finding a new balance,
Right.
which is throwing the
Right.
familiarity of the compensation
Right.
or whatever. So now
Right.
this one's acting up. Or the third option is that there was always an issue going on here too. It was just this one was louder.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I can see that.
So yeah.
All that makes total sense, all three of them. But also I get the feeling too that there are sometimes illnesses have a consciousness, I kind of feel. Because like I felt like I was fighting with asthma, which I think I was fighting with grief, which,
Mhm.
which seemed to come up around like certain moments of my consciousness. I would
Mhm.
realize something and then boom, I go into grief. Like, there's like a response. I would do something and it would have a response,
Mhm.
and I was kind of fighting this, I don't know if I'm fighting a shadow of myself, a ghost of myself, a ghost of my pain. I don't know. But I do feel over time that it seems like everything God creates is self-aware, everything, rocks, trees, stars. So I would imagine a dis-ease could very well be a vermin,
I'm with
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Yes, I second that.
So just real quickly to follow up on the training aspects of this, um, what is the course? I mean, what kind of course are we talking about here as far as
Mhm.
the time involved and the investment involved? Because I have a sense that people are going to be interested in this particular practice.
Sure. So we meet over Zoom. Unless right now I'm teaching a small group privately local, which is awesome because we get to do
Mhm,
some in real life stuff, but that's okay.
mhm,
We are no longer restricted to being in real life. So that's great news. So we teach over Zoom, and each class is 2 hours in length. And
mm.
the process of what you're learning is actually the daily practice. How I mentioned before that what is taught to us
Ah,
is the practice that
mm,
enables this to come through. Yes, we also learn how to do the healings, but in fact, that's secondary
mhm.
to the practice itself.
Okay.
As far as the teaching that we receive from our master teacher, like it's the practice that's the important piece of that. I mean, so is doing the
Right.
healings, of course, but that's the heart of it. So the course actually breaks down bit by bit this daily practice. So you learn the first piece. Well, first we give you, like an overview of Bali and that unique synergy and everything that goes into this practice. And then you learn part one of the practice, and
Mm,
you know, come into communion with that. The next week, the next part of the practice, come into communion with that. The next piece of the practice, come into communion with that, start to marry them together. So by the end of the fifth ish week, you have the full practice. Like
mm,
now you have what can be, and maybe you're someone that has a daily practice already. You have a strong meditation practice, or you have a strong
mhm,
spiritual practice, whatever it may be. This might be something that goes in addition to that you already have created for yourself. For many people, this serves as like a first time I'm learning. I'm spending dedicated time in practice. This can be the
mm.
first time someone's embarking upon this.
Right.
But anywho, so learning a practice, and then the final weeks of the course are how to then do the healings. We teach how to do them on a body in real life lying in front of you, and
Mhm.
then how to work on a remote, whether it be a screen or a photo or a FaceTime or whatever it may be. And then we culminate that with a virtual gathering where the new healers can invite family and friends, and they can say, oh my gosh, I learned this super exciting thing. And we do complimentary healings, and we work together as a community.
Mm.
So the healings can be super powerful. It's really fun. And to have like it live. So people are watching and going, oh my gosh, I just saw that person lift their shoulder and they couldn't a minute
Wow.
ago. It's very exciting. Um, and then like I said, there's ongoing support. There's weekly, Zoom meetups and things where we can answer questions and all of that. It's not like the course is closed, now you don't have my phone number.
Oh yeah.
This is
There's a degree. Go practice. We'll see you. When we ask you for donate money to our school later.
Yeah,
Next time
no,
we hear from us, donation request.
people would be would fall off in 2 seconds
I love
because
that. It's
it
built that way.
really is hard. I'm not gonna lie, out there world, it is hard to keep hold of it because it feels like, nobody's heard of it. I mean, that's it. It's not feels like nobody's heard of it. It's like,
Right.
really, it's new.
Well, in
um
our world, our Christian world, and
yeah.
my name's Christopher. I was raised this way. The belief structure is just so closed, to everything that the church didn't tell them.
Hmm.
That you're up to so many. I always say there's like 3 sales in light work. First, that you can improve your life. Imagine it. Second, I'm the guy to do it. Third, buy this product or service. It's like, because we're going against the established, belief structure that everyone's subscribed to without even thinking they subscribe to it as a child or whatever. So I see that. I totally see that. But I like what you say, because it sounds like if you don't regularly practice, you lose the power, right?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Sorry, I got distracted by the chat.
Sorry
There's so
about that.
much happening over here. I'm like, I gotta get to that later. What's going on?
It's your event. We'll talk about. Yeah. That's our director promoting what to promote. Yeah, go ahead.
Got it. What did you ask me?
If you don't practice, you lose the power.
Yes, it's and I said yes and no, something like that.
I think so. Like, yeah.
Okay, so
Kind of, you said, I think.
I would say yes, you do lose the power, but not because you lose the power. It's because you lose the belief in the power.
Oh, interesting.
And it is a subtle distinction. It is different.
Yeah.
Because it belongs, we all have access to all of this all of the time.
Yeah.
But it's the practice that reminds and reminds and reminds and reminds.
Yes.
So that's what it is.
Reminds. The mind is constantly re-neuralized with truth. I found that to be true. I had to take a forced hiatus to astrology for like 10 months because of the nature of something I went through, dealing with a substance outside me, a medicine that was prescribed to me. So I was on this ride. I couldn't get off. But at the end of the 9 months, I was asking myself, do I have the gift? I can do it? And once I started doing astrology, it all came back pretty quickly. But I could see how my own confidence completely faded from a lack of practice. I could see that. Yeah. But I kind of like that, because it's like, does your medical Western doctor go back and review, anything? Are they studying the new pharmacies? Are they up on the knowledge? Can they even be, with how stressed the system is? So the idea that you're still attached to the university from the entire practice is like a really strong, I think, quality of what you're doing. It's great. Keeps everything on the real, right?
For me, and I will also add, like, it is such a rich daily practice. I love it.
I was going to ask you, like, could people say, I don't want to heal, but this just keeps you healthy? Is this a practice you learn that just keeps you healthy all the time and just be your morning routine, basically?
100%. The vast majority, actually, of people that have gone through our training don't actually go through it with the intention of becoming a practitioner. They go through it with the intention of, whether it be self-healing or connection to source or personal growth, because it's a really strong standalone practice, whether you're taking it into the realm of being a practitioner or not. There's a lot of people who only want to learn it when it's not it's a beautiful thing to learn it to help your family and friends. Like, that's a beautiful thing. So no just on that, yes, there's lots of people that's their intention in coming into it.
Okay. That's brilliant. Well, I think that's absolutely amazing. And what you're practicing, I think, is great. I think you're in the forefront of something fascinating. By the way, she's offering, this is where she was reading, a free healing event for the first 50 people in our audience that sign up. Scan now, but I would go. I mean, honestly, can it be 51? We'll talk about it backstage, but I would love to hear. Yeah, I'd love to see a little bit. And, and I'm thinking to myself, like, if I come home and I hurt myself, can I just be like, and just feel myself like that? Like, you literally can heal yourself if you have an issue?
Yes, you can. And I will also say that, for me, again, this is my experience, healing myself is much harder than.
Sure. That's true with all of us. You can buddy up with your friend you met in class. That's great.
Oh, absolutely. And same things with my children. Like, it's almost like I care too much. I'm personally invested in, like, oh my God, my kid's really sick. I can't get through anything that way. So I 100% send pictures of me and my kids to, healers that I know, because they're going to get to it quicker. Cause yeah.
It's like beauticians that trade haircuts. It's like, can you cut mine? Yeah. It's really great. One last question for our executive producer, Diane. Does it work on pets and animals?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. I think we just lost Diane. Anyways, she's going to be healing. She's going to be in the center healing all the doggies. That's great, because I think a lot of times humans who, animals, they, oh my God, I don't know what to do. They're suffering. So it's handy in that regard for people who see their animals as their children. So
Very, very much so. There was one of our healers said recently, oh my gosh, we need to do a virtual event where it's just people bring their pets. That's what we
right.
need to do. Like that would be
Ooh.
amazing. And I thought she is onto something. So
You know what? If you want to do something with us, we can fill that room. You know, if you want to, we'll talk after. Let's talk
Okay.
backstage. No, let's
Okay.
seriously, because I think that'd be a great idea. We have a lot of people who are suffering, and then their pets are getting sick because the pets are absorbing their stuff. And you know, that'd be an interesting and be a good thing to also document with video. You know, just to see that and the testimonials. So I want to say thank you so much for coming. You'll have to come again. We'll have to do some sort of fun little something, because I think this is the first healing modality energetically that I felt or had on the show that I felt was almost a guarantee it'll work if you try it.
Wow. I go into everyone that I do. Like this is I can't say guarantee, but I feel it's a guarantee. And that said, let me reiterate, I cannot.
Just for fun. Just for fun.
Well, it is just fun. And I also can't make a guarantee, you know?
Right. Of course. Well, people block it. They're going to block it and all
People
kinds of
block
things.
it, and if it's not someone's time, not that we would go down a whole rabbit hole here, but like if it's not the karmic time or whatever it is, whatever your belief system is around that, it might not be time to let it go.
Totally.
And how is that thing protecting you in another way or serving you in another way, and blah, blah, blah. We could keep going, but.
Totally. It's not always. Well, Janelle, thank you so much. Stay backstage so we can chat after the show.
Okay.
And we'll get a little deeper on some stuff in the background. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. We've had a great time today.
Oh, thank you. And thank you, everyone.
Hi. Thanks, everyone. Adam, we need to go to an intermission for just 1 second, or we're going to lose power on this laptop. Go here and check. Hello. Okay, we're back. Can y'all hear me? Yeah, we good backstage? All right. Yep, we're good. Sorry, that was a moment. Plug in. That's the thing with the laptop. I don't have my main machine here. So, you plug something in it, or jiggle something, and suddenly mic goes out. Then this goes out. And, what I was saying in silence there, if you could lip read, was I'm very impressed with this healing modality because I know a lot of people have gone down the Reiki path, and I think a lot of people do Reiki. I just want to say I respect Reiki. I think it's amazing. But I also feel it's sort of first step towards this, let's say, miraculous healing path. And I believe the miraculous healing path is possible. This is the first practitioner and practice I've heard of that seems to be, something you can rely on. That's with confidence. Again, like she said, without the patient disagreeing or disbelieving. If there's an easy access to the belief structure, we're looking for that. I think part of the new era is that we start to go down that path, and we start to really start to open up alternative healings, right, in this direction. So, as she said, you can do it remotely. She said that you can learn without going to Bali. I'd love to see a lot of people who are wanting to take Reiki to the next level follow this path and let us know how it goes and come back. I'll tell you right now, if someone goes down this path and you learn it, I'd like to have you on the show. I'll tell you right now. We want to hear about your experience, what you learned, and what you've done since then. I'm also very curious about healing pets. We'll talk about that. So thank you to Janelle. That was a very cool, phenomenal, interesting door to a whole new practice. And yay to the sensei out there that did it. It's awesome stuff. Again, so just so you know, we're going to be changing the time and date of the show coming up. I mean, the day of the week and the time. We're not ready to do that yet. We want to have it all set and ready to go. We're just letting you know, yes, we're still going to be here on Friday night. So Serious Joy will be broadcasting Astro Mingle on Friday nights. That is a solid. So we will be meeting the party here on Friday nights. We may add an additional show to that, so it's a block. But you will always have Astro Mingle here. Namaste Today Live will be moving to a new day and time where we'll be hanging out in another day to hang out with each other. So we appreciate that. We're all good with sound. So the question was, okay, we didn't get it. Let's just do our promos, okay? First of all, Leading Out Loud is coming up next. We just went live yesterday with modalities. Our gang talked about it live Thursday afternoon, and we had a great talk show. So if you want to learn about modalities, tarot card, the magic 8-ball, fortune cookies, we went through all the list of things that people use as modalities and ways of connecting to spirit. It's a great episode. It's live right now on our YouTube channel, which is at Leading Out Loud, at LOL Leading Out Loud, okay? Or simply go to leadingoutloud.com. It'll take you straight to the show. We'd love to have some more people find it. It's a great show. We're having a good time with it. It's a great talk show. Also free to the public, our daily download starring Heather Exposito is also live 7 days a week. Heather came and learned the step system some years ago, actually about 3 years ago. To say she's one of the most profound insights into step system, and she's got a very practical, pragmatic mind, a Virgo rising, and a brilliant Sagittarius mind. So she's doing this and helping us to make it simple and keep it simple. So if you're a beginner to the step system, study under Heather and come to our homepage for free at the daily download. We also have, of course, TV shows at seriousjoy.tv, seriousjoy.com, actually. And we did the Mega Monthly Address last week. I did that. So that is now live in our live theater. This upcoming week, however, we're going to have our Angel Intervention show. Here's Heather again, starring with Devin Dewar, our angel interpreter and communicator, and also a star on LOL. These two ladies are doing a show where they actually do live readings. The angels is really the center of the reading. So we're downloading answers through Devin. And then Heather is having sort of an astrological commentary that goes along with the angel download. This is a great witness to working with the angels. And when you watch this show, it's weird, but the angels are working with you too. So if you get a ping, you should watch this show. It's because the angelic realm is actually telling you, I'm going to give you an answer to something you need at this show. So it's paradoxical in how it works. It will go live this upcoming Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on seriousjoy.com. If you're not a member, just $3.99 will get you aboard and access to that. Check out this show and the many other shows that we provide that you simply will not find anywhere on earth. We're proud of that. Okay, and that is our finale of the show. Sharing is caring, my friends and family. Notice we are wrapping up the show about an hour early. That's because we're going to make it a little bit of a lighter dose and make these injections lighter. But sharing is caring. So honestly, please share us with your friends and family. The best way to share us is your horoscope, their horoscope. Let them hear the horoscope. Let them hear what's going on. And I think that will be amazing. Oh, thank you. Someone says the pep talks have been spot on. Thank you. The pep talks that Michelle's referring to is our daily podcast that comes out of seriousjoy.com 7 days a week, me during the weekdays, and Robbie Hunt, our lead astrologer, on the weekend. It's really great. And Angel Intervention is amazing. Check it out. Oh, Heather's in the house. Yay. Thank you, Heather, for coming. That's wonderful. We also have a Facebook group where we sort of gather sort of like the lobby. Our Facebook group is like the lobby of Serious Joy. A lot of people are a little skeptical of us. They're not sure who we are. They come to the Serious Joy Club. They kind of see a real access. It's sort of the outer realm of our enterprise. And you're allowed to advertise your spiritual show there, advertise your spiritual practice there. As long as you're not trying to, pull one, we have knights around the world who are volunteering. I think this is the only club I've ever heard of that has world round. We follow the sun. We have people around the world who are basically watching the club around the sun, making sure there's no hooligans in there and making sure that people are on the up and up. We make sure the vibe is high at seriousjoy.club. Also, if you want to follow us, you can follow us at seriousjoy.social. We'll be adding some more features to this in the near future, where you can just, really get our resume and figure out who we are, some testimonials, all that sort of stuff is coming there. So you might want to go there and bookmark it. It's your access to everything we do. And if you'd rather listen instead of watch, well, we are on Spotify, we are on Stitcher, and we're on Apple Podcasts. So a lot of people listen to us, and we love that we have your ear. I want to say special thanks to our producer, Diane DeStefano, and for graphics, casting, and chat moderation. All those hats are worn by Nina Kay. Our amazing Galactically Grand Master Director, Adam Turner, who turns on a dime. He's amazing. We appreciate him. And our phenomenal teaching staff at Serious Joy. I mean, these are the best out there. We're proud of them. Robbie Hunt was our lead astrologer. Kristen Ryder, our sound healer. Devin Dewar, our angel communicator. Joe Zamet, which is our ceremonies director. She's teaching about the ceremonies. Gwen English, to be determined. We haven't released her product yet. Daiki Okamoto, also in process. And the fabulous Heather Exposito, who teaches our Joy Garden. And the principal of our Joy Garden, frankly, as well, too. We want to say thank you to our super friends. You know who you are. Sydney, Coffee Bean, Jill Louise, Margot Malia, Lori Ship, Nikki Anderson, Lieben Lauren, Erica, Michelle Camper, Michelle Bell, Cat Ryder, Soul Brother, Daryl Brinkenship. I've seen you, brother. Thanks for showing up. Neptune Girl, Jamar, Christine Kelly, and Sydney, and always Iggy Nitu. Jamar, haven't seen you. Just going to say, haven't seen you, man. Things could happen. All right, friends, we're so grateful to be a part of your life every week and to be a part of this co-creation of the new era. Please stay in your hearts. Remember with that eclipse coming up, you got to make sure your heart's on the right page and your emotions are following. And I'll see you 1 week from now when you are a changed mirage. Congratulations on your mirage. I love you. Live, love, be.
It's serious joy.